about to actually put this thing on Twitter as well. Wish me luck. Is that not how they say it? All right. All right. So Twitter is about going live. Same here, Baba. Went away. Went away down south for a share. Oh, okay. Good morning, Tom. Tom 31327. Good morning, Tom. Let me leave the number alone. Good morning, sir. Hope you're having a wonderful day. You can't see pictures. Maybe you should step out and come back in, because everything is fine now. Or maybe I should ask other people. Just be coming. You've made a lot of requests. The thing is, I don't see your requests. That's the thing. Maybe it's because you're on private or something. I pray your platform gets bigger. Say thank you. Amen. 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 I pray so too. I'm trusting that we're going to get bigger. And everyone, thank you for your support. That tap that you do to like the live, that's part of helping the platform become bigger. So thank you. Apparently we're going to make it get bigger together. Thank you, Mr. Jalili Alarakwe. Thank you. And thank you for your gift. Thank you. You made a promise here, and just in case other people, you made a promise here about getting someone to support some things, and then you fulfill that promise. So we're waiting for it to be consistent. But thank you. I really do appreciate that. All right. Ìjẹ̀bú pọ̀ nbí ṣá. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ so máa rí ní comment section. Ẹ ń ṣe parapọ̀ àbí? Èkìtì parapọ̀, Ìjẹ̀bú parapọ̀. Ẹ fẹ́ ṣe ojúde TikTok. All right. But it's good to be here. Like it's a blessing. But I'm trying to set up the old Twitter thing. Okay, I think we're good. It's true now. People are doing Ìjẹ̀bú connection. Ẹ̀dùn ẹ̀yìn mo fẹ́ yẹ wá máa ṣe mí tí o kẹ́ máa pè mí sí o kí n lè máa sọ pé àwa náà wà níbí. Ẹ̀wẹ̀ sọ ọmọ ẹrẹ́nu wa, ọmọ alárẹ̀, ẹ̀kárì. Next year, that Ojude Oba, we're going to shut it down. Just becoming Abi, we're going to shut it down. Why is the stadium now? It has to be bigger, because at a step up. All right. I'm going to pick people up later, but let's try and get into the conversation. So we begin with the news, and then from there we'll get on to other things, okay? We're so low to say Jabula on the math tuition. Hey, Jesus. If they come up with Nijebu, you cover anything. You also Ijebu. I want to do change of name. Jalil is also Ijebu. Mo fẹ́ ṣe change of name o. Ijebu Yimika. But Yoruba Yimika. Everybody Yimika, but Ijebu people are quite many here. Ijebu sites Baho. Very soon you are Okun, wonderful. You want to dominate like the Igbos, you don't even have to try, Ijebu. You don't have to try, don't worry. You're already dominating. I won't say more. I won't say more than that. Surely to is Ijebu. Hey, it's Ijebu Day officially. What's today's date? Tuesday. Tuesday. By the way, Happy New Month, everybody. Happy New Month. 1st of July 2025. It's Ijebu Day. Ogun London show one say. But it's good now, you know. Tí ẹni kékeré Ìjẹ̀bú owó ni ńlá Ìjẹ̀bú. So tí Ìjẹ̀bú ṣe pọ̀ bí báyìí nísìnyí ó máa pọ̀ bí ni. So Ìjẹ̀bú tí wọ́n ń ṣàwọn owó ni kẹ́kọ̀ọ́ máa yáwó ni. Àbẹ́kọ̀. Happy New Month. Oṣù ayọ̀ ló máa jẹ́ fún wa o. Oṣù ìgbéga. Oṣù ìfọ̀kànbalẹ̀. Happy New Month to everybody. In case you don't understand Yoruba language, may it be a blessed month for you. May it be a month of progress and increase on all sides. In Jesus' name. So thank you very much for being here. It's a blessing, really, to be here with you. Having said that, wisdom nice, brother. I'm going to. Sorry guys, I just saw something on YouTube. Okay, I'm not going to, I want to ask you a question. Please tell me what this thing means. So there's a video on the YouTube page. By the way, guys on Twitter, thank you very much for joining us as well. Thank you, Bode. Is this Bode Thomas? Are you a reincarnation? Bode Thomas, Orisi. And wow. L.O. Low, thank you very much for being here as well. Pearl, good to see you. Don't die in silence, so God will take care of you. Let me just, don't be spamming people's life. It's not fair. I was going to say something. So there's a video on the YouTube channel. It's titled How Ojukwu Fooled Victor Banjo. Okay? One person, whose name is Okpara Luke, then writes, "You are a fool to call Banjo a fool." Wait, I want to respond. I'll say I'm sorry. Next time I write it in Igbo. I'm sorry. Next time, I'm happy no. This is funny. I write it in Igbo since English language is the problem here. The English language is clearly the problem here. I said, how Ojukwu fooled Victor Banjo. The child is saying somebody is a fool to call Banjo a fool. Oh well, next time I'll write it in Igbo. All right. Please today we're going to have a great time, but please let's part. I'm more happy as I confirmed you like violence as well. I don't like violence, so I don't like violence. I'm a man of peace. I'm not a war or a fight. Okay, it's been a while, Sha. That guy is I'm a war. I'm a fight. I'm in the Boski Bahos. He get many power. Now when they remove him, there is that guy is just an interesting person. It's an interesting person. In other life, he would do better. It would do well, not better. He would do well as a comedian. And I think he knows. He knows it's funny. That's the cool part, by the way. He knows he is funny, and he milks it. Good man, good businessman. I think these people don't understand English sometimes. I'm Matigba for long. Èmi màtí rójú rere rẹ̀ ó pa pẹ́pẹ́ Èdùmàrè ti ṣe mí lógo. All right. Ògiri ò ṣe dìgbòlù. Ben. Today we're going to continue with our. It's turning out to be a series. I thought we were going to be able to do it in 2 sessions, but this is part 5. Well, it doesn't help that we spend a lot of time. Well, it helps. To be honest, the reason we weren't able to finish it in like 1 or 2 sessions is because I think my own approach is, if I'm studying, say, a character or a thing, I like to understand things around them. So, for instance, for Victor Banjo, ideally, and I've done this before, ideally we would start from the very beginning, and we still did, even in this session, but we just didn't concentrate there. We'll go into how he was born, where he was born, his father, his mother, which, to be honest, we actually did, but not as in depth, And then, but when we got to discussing, what happened on January 15, 16, 17, how he was imprisoned, how, he wrote letters to Iransi, who didn't release him, by the way. When you put all of those things together, and then you get into how he was released eventually after the declaration of Biafra, and things like that. When you put all that together, you now start saying that, okay, maybe we should stay on some of these things and just go a bit in depth so that we're not rushing through it. Because at the end of the day, the goal is not to quickly cover something like, okay, we must finish this thing in 2 days and move on to something else. That's really not the goal. The goal is to try and understand the person and the circumstances surrounding the events, surrounding their decisions, and also the events of the day and things like that. So these are the reasons we spend some time, all right, to discuss these things, okay? And I'm sure it's going to help all of us, understand these things better, all right? Again, to folks who are just joining us on Twitter, thank you so much for being here. But let's do a little housekeeping on TikTok. Please, let's share the live on TikTok, on YouTube, on Twitter as well. I'm going to do the same thing. So if you see I'm quiet for a bit, it's because I'm trying to share. So let's share it on our WhatsApp status, our YouTube, our Twitter, our TikTok. Okay? Thank you very much. Let's quickly do that, and then we can get deep into it. But before we get started on the conversation at all, we're going to spend some time on the news. Yesterday, we didn't cover so many because we're trying to deal with a particular narrative, and so it took us a while. But today, we're going to start with the news making the rounds in the last 24 to 48 hours. Mojuro, bang, 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 all right. Please be on TikTok. Kindly power tap on 15.3K, but we're on Amber Alert. And I mean, this, that the way this app works, we have to power tap. Mo ti bí àwọn èèyàn nínú lórí Twitter o. Mo ti bí àwọn èèyàn nínú lórí Twitter ṣá. Èyà. Èmi tó dẹ̀ pé jẹ́jẹ́ mi máa ń ṣe. Èyà. Twitter people, I don't know, this is how you guys are. Ẹ ṣe bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni o, ẹ̀sùn ẹ̀jẹ̀. Mo dẹ̀ burú o, mi kàn ń ṣe bí pé mo burú ni o. If it's about tears, I know how to help people cry. So I don't like to respond. Like, one came this morning and was trying to be smart and said, "Oh, what you said is not really going to happen." So I said, "Okay, what do you have to prove?" I'm sorry. He now made a mistake and mentioned something about beer parlor. Kò ní ṣe rẹ̀ mọ́. Kò ní ṣe irú rẹ̀ mọ́. I think people don't respond to these guys as they should. That's why they feel they can't talk anyhow. All right. So let's get into the news. Sorry, guys. X na ogba were busui. No, àwọn èèyàn wa náà wà ńbẹ̀. Kọ́lọ́run wá ṣàánú wa ká mọ̀ báyìí máa tẹ̀sí báyìí máa fẹsẹ̀ rìn bẹ́ẹ̀ nítorí ibẹ̀ yẹn há bákan. If you're on YouTube, please like the live. Please share as well. Thank you very much. let's get into this. I need to share the YouTube link as well. Okay, just give me a couple of seconds. So we begin with but let's start with news. Oh, that's the reason I have this noise. Sorry, I have to put off this fan. Oh, are you guys? Is there the sound of fan getting into the mic? Like Shengbo, I bet him in Kokoni. Shengbo, like noise in the background. The backbo. No, okay. The back won't record the majao. Aba, oh, I'm better. So the 28th, maybe you're in a noisy place. Mumbo. All right, thank you. I hope the sound is gone now, eh? It's good now, yeah. All right, good. Now let's get into today's stuff. 1 second, guys. So let's start with something from Abuja, then we'll move on from there, okay? This is from Sahara Reporters. We're going to read something about what the FCT minister did as far as with the University of Abuja, okay? FCT Minister Wike seizes... Okay. FCT Minister Wike seizes University of Abuja land, cuts institution from 11,000 to 4,000 hectares. The Federal Capital Territory Minister, Nyesom Wike, has seized thousands of hectares of land from the University of Ibadan, recovering 7,000 out of the 11,000 hectares the institution had fenced off in the Giri district without proper documentation. The university on their own grabbed 11,000 hectares. I said that will not happen. No document, nothing. You see them fencing everywhere, and before you know it, they would have gone to sell our land, Wike stated. The minister directed the Director of Lands and other relevant FCTA agencies to allocate only 4,000 hectares to the university, while the rest would be reallocated for planned development projects in the district. Wike assured residents and stakeholders of his administration's determination to provide infrastructure that will encourage development and improve living conditions. That's quite interesting that the university will do that, but I wonder if there are no politicians involved in that scheme. Most likely there were. Moving on from there, we'll fly all the way from Abuja to Lagos. The Ojora of Ijora and Igomu Kingdom. Sorry, guys. Sorry, on board. Sorry, there's a little issue somewhere. Just a second, guys. All right. The Ojora of Ijora and Igomu Kingdom, Oba Abdulfatai Aromire Oyegbemi, has taken action against 6 of his chiefs. dethroning them for violating palace protocol. It couldn't have dethroned them, it just stopped them from being chiefs. We're having good news from our kings now. Yes, dethroning them for violating palace protocol and impersonating the monarch at a political event. Those removed from their traditional positions are Chief Latif Ojora, Baale Alabaoro, Chief Saliu Biliamin, Baale Alafia Dodoro, Chief Taiwo Hassan, Baale Okeira, Chief Idris Olatipopo Ojora, Baale Abule Kekere, Chief Hakeem Hosseini, Baale Musafejo Amukoko, and Chief Sule Raji Balogun, Baale of Abule Kekere. The development followed a palace meeting held on Monday, June 30, 2025, where Oba Oyegbemi declared the chief's actions as unacceptable. The six were accused of attending a Labour Party campaign flag-off event in Apapa without royal approval, an act considered as impersonating the traditional ruler. In a statement released on Monday, following the outcome of this event, quote, following the outcome of this event, which unfolded without his prior knowledge, Kabiyesi Ojora summoned the Bales, Balogun, and the Ojora councils to his ancient palace for clarification. In a tone marked by disappointment and authority, Kabiyesi stated that the chief's actions were in violation of their duties. He reiterated that no chief should make decisions or act on his behalf without his explicit consent, as they all serve to represent him and uphold the traditions of the land. Now, when you read that, for instance, on Twitter, what you see is Lagos monarch dethrones chiefs for attending Labour Party campaign flag off. And then you have all these children of perdition, saying all kinds of things there. But I'll say this is very, very good. Number one, every chief is an extension. This is not about freedom of movement. It's about the institution. And like I said, if the king, the Kabiyesi, decides to work with a party, then you can go. But if not, you can't. If you have a problem with that, then don't be a chief. Then you have people saying things like, has he gotten to this? Again, because they are still looking at things from. So no. And by the way, this is the I said something that Orubobo, that very soon. By the way, this is actually even good. This is lawful. This is legal. I'm trusting, I'm hoping, I'm praying to God that the unlawful one will not happen because of the way people move. Anyway, and then those who are very dumb also went ahead to say monarchs are unconstitutional in Nigeria. All men are created equal according to our constitution. Come to the palace at Enuwa. Come to Ife and come and tell us that you are the same as Kabiyesi. You have all these funny characters, because you don't understand the difference between, people don't really get it. But that's very welcome development. I'm happy about it. I'm on top of the moon. And we should have that, not necessarily because of a particular party, but because of a particular party. Why? Because that party's agenda in Lagos is not good. Wait, are you from Ile-Ife? Yes, I am. I'm from Ile-Ife. I am. All right. Moving on from there, the federal government delegation pays condolence visit to Dan Tata family in Medina, Saudi Arabia, ahead burial tomorrow. So I'm sure we all know that this happened over the weekend. Dangote's uncle, by the way, was the last surviving child of Alassane Dan Tata, the wealthiest man in West Africa in his own days, who happened to be Dangote's father or Dangote's grandfather or great-grandfather, something like that. But anyway, the man who just passed on over the weekend is his last surviving child, and he was 94. And he had a wish to be buried beside his wife in Medina. And so the Saudi Arabia government granted them permission, and they're in Medina. And then the federal government also sent a delegation to Saudi Arabia to commiserate with them. And I think that's beautiful, that they're honoring his wish. All right, moving on from that. So I'm going to play something, like a video, just to understand what we read earlier about what's happening in Abuja as per the university and the land that was reclaimed by the FCT minister Wike, yes, on Wike. So please take a listen to this.
It's going to have most institutions like the university, like the EFCC Academy, and all other institutions that are supposed to be here. And this road has helped us to stop the land grabbing by the university. The university, on their own, grabbed 11,000 hectares. I said that will not happen. I said that will not happen. No document, nothing. Just all you see them, fence it everywhere. And before you know it, they were going to sell our land. So I've told the director of lands and the other relevant agencies to carve out 4,000 hectares and give to the university. The ones we allocated because we are going to provide the roads here. And that is the true situation. We cannot allow people. You just wake up in the morning, all you see is just fence, going. No document, nothing. That is not the way we are supposed to work. So, Mr. President, this will be an important district that will attract so many investors. Of course, coming in here, you can see how beautiful it looks. If the National Assembly want to have their own institution, we are ready to partner with you to give National Assembly so that the budget can be approved as easily as possible. We are ready to do that.
All right, so moving on from that, just wanted us to listen to him say something on that matter. So Peter Obi has said that it will bring stability to Nigeria within 2 years in office. I'm not sure. The sad part is that if you can't bring stability to your political party all these years, forget the fact that you were governor. Just that you can't do that, then it's, I don't know, it beggars belief that you'll be able to do anything like that in Nigeria, but everybody can dream. Moving on from there, Akeredolu's wife may be quizzed as Ondo government launches probe into former governor's death. Says concerns over wife's unguarded conduct prompts the probe. Let me just quickly read that. The Ondo State government has announced plans to launch a probe into the death of former Oluwarotimi. Sorry, 1 second, guys. We have the clowns from the woodworks. All right. The Ondo State government has announced plans to launch a probe into the death of former Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu with a potential inspection of his corpse and questioning his wife, Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu. The State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Dr. Luka Odeajulo, disclosed this in a statement, citing petitions from concerned groups requesting the invocation of the coroner's law of Ondo State. The petition received from various groups raised concerns about the circumstances surrounding Akeredolu's death. They pointed to previous and recent public statements, as well as what they described as unguarded and unhinged conduct of Betty Anyanwu Akeredolu, casting doubt on the official narrative that Akeredolu died from cancer-related complications. Oh boy, this is something. This is something. Now I feel sorry for the children. They're going to have to exhume the body, apparently. Oh boy. That's what people get for being clownish. Just insulting everybody. Even call the king Baby Oba. But to be honest, I wish there was something they could do to deal with her without having to, you know, it feels somehow because Akeredolu is not the one who started the whole thing. So I don't like that stuff. But it is what it is. Moving on. While some people are shouting that um, just becoming, I get it, but it looks more political than anything else, to be honest. But again, that's just my, and that's what it is. Because right there they said due to our unguarded and unhinged statement, so it's political. If she sold our land, it's not, is it the body of our husband that will give our lands back to us? They should deal with her. But I don't know if that I mean I can't say it's good or bad, but I just don't know if that's the right way to deal with that particular thing, to be honest. But that's just what I think. Anyway, while some people are talking about Yoruba people not being bold enough, because and those people, for instance, if you ask them what does define bold, they probably would not know exactly what it is they're looking for. But while they're in town saying all of those things, well, Chief Olabi Salis, a Yoruba man, has become the first Nigerian in space. History has been made. On June 29, 2025, Chief Olabi Salis soared past the Karman line aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard NS-33 mission, officially becoming the first Nigerian to travel into space. Launched from Blue Origin's site in West Texas, the 10-minute suborbital flight took Salis and 5 other crewmates beyond Earth's atmosphere, reaching an apogee of 105.2 kilometers, that's 345,044 feet. The experience included a moment of weightlessness and a view of Earth that few ever get to witness. A proud son of Ikorodu, Lagos, Salis called the journey a convergence of science and spirit, describing it as a call to inspire future generations across Nigeria and Africa. He joins a growing global community of citizen astronauts and marks a powerful step forward for African space participation. The NS-33 mission may have lasted minutes, but its impact will last generations. That's from Space in Africa. Yeah, I don't know how many cowards get to do that, but yeah. And by the way, it's something to be happy about, and yeah, be proud as well. And like the man also, he wore a cap like mine. In case you don't believe me, let me show you. Ọmọ Yorùbá ni mí o, swagger. All right. Who played that soundtrack just now? Somebody. So that's something good. All right. We know the president has been in local countries. The president, no, and then St. Kitts, St. Lucia. He has been in St. Lucia for a bit, and now there's a scholarship program for students from the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, to study in Nigerian universities, and that will commence in the next academic year. That, I believe, is very, very laudable. But, by the way, people have been spending time saying there's no reason for him to be in St. Lucia because, you know, it's a small country. It's not as big as Ajegunle. That's what Peter Obi said. He said it's not as big as Ajegunle because apparently the basis for visiting another country is supposed to be the size of the country. You know, it's supposed to be the size of the country. Once it's too small, why are you going there? Mbo, a few more things I want to get out before we get to the conversation. All right, so the president, interestingly, while in St. Lucia, met a young Nigerian medical student and wait for it, his name is definitely not Uluwarotimi. His name is Bob Chikwem Amadi. Coincidence? Whatever. I'm happy for the guy. So he says, this is a very inspiring moment for me, says Nigerian medical student in St. Lucia after meeting President Tinubu and Prime Minister Pierre. Bob Chikwem Amadi, a Nigerian medical student at the American International University in St. Lucia, or St. Lucia, I don't know which one is better. If they use Spanish, I think it's Lucia. Whichever one it is, Egbabe. Just assume that I'm using Ibadan to call one side. I'm using Eko to call the other one. Anyway, the guy says he described his encounter with President Bola Tinubu and Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre as inspiring. Amadi, who is preparing for the clinical phase of his medical training at the American University, had a memorable encounter with the Nigerian leader and the Lucian Prime Minister Pierre on the second day of President Tinubu's visit to the Caribbean nation. So that's quite good. Trying not to get into what you wrote in the comment section, but I'm happy for the guy that actually got to meet the president, and I hope really cool stuff come out of that for him. Moving on from there, I want to read something to you from the cable. This is actually quite interesting. Like I say, people don't become desperate. Peter Obi says, I am ready to serve one term if elected president in 2027. Should you believe that? Don't ever believe it. I'll see if I can. I'm sure you have heard the stuff of somebody said they would never leave Abga. History is very important. Walai. Anyway, let's read what he has to say. Peter Obi, the Labour Party LP presidential candidate in the 2023 election, says he is willing to be a one-term president in 2027. Obi, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, ex-Transportation Minister Rotimi Amechi, and Nasir El-Rufai, former Governor of Kaduna, are putting together a coalition to possibly wrest federal power from President Bola Tinubu and the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the 2027 general election. Speaking during the Twitter space hosted by Parallel Facts on Sunday, Obi said any candidate from the South elected president in 2027 must be prepared. Why do people like just playing around like this? Ombo. He said anybody, any Southern candidate who gets in power must be prepared to leave office on May 28, 2031, in line with the unwritten power sharing agreement and the zoning principle. He added that the zoning principle, which alternates the presidency between North and South, is a commitment he has long championed. Please, let's power tap. Thank you, everyone. Please, we really have to. The amber alert doesn't help, so please, let's power tap. Should the coalition hand him the ticket for the 2027? Kubo on YouTube, thank you for being here. I didn't see you yesterday, but I'm glad you're here today. Thank you so much for joining us. So he says, should the coalition hand him the ticket for the 2027 presidency on the back of the gentleman's agreement, and should he win the election, Obi said he would not stay a day longer in office. If you take the arrangement, which is understandably what you can call an unwritten agreement, that power would go south and north, and if that arrangement is to be followed strictly, you would see that anybody, not just me, who happens to come from the south as president in 2027, must be ready to leave on the 28th of May, not 2031, he said. Obi said he advocated for zoning in Anambra as governor, noting that his insistence on the principle made him a target for political opponents. Let me say something at this point. There is no gentleman agreement for Nigeria to have north and south. The agreement about zoning is party affair. This is how people use it. This is how people just cut everything. PDP had the agreement, not Nigeria. PDP was the original party that had the agreement. APC then did the same thing. It's not national. What that means basically is this. If you have, let me find a way to explain. Because I need to go. It's not going to spend 4 years, no matter what it says. That once they're about to get to 2039, I can assure you, before you know what's happening, we'll join that coalition. No, he can't even win. He cannot win. But the point is, believe nothing you hear as far as this is concerned. It's not going to. I was going to start explaining, but necessary. Necessary. So it's not necessary. All right, moving away from that. I think we should listen to a short clip. Not short. It's quite long, but just going to stop after a bit from President Tinubu. This is one of the conversations they had before the elections. I think this is quite inspiring. Also gives us a window into how his mind works. So please take a listen to this.
Living conditions for the average citizen. And, some of those things, get us to think around how this has contributed possibly to the rising unemployment levels. Youth unemployment is at unprecedented levels. Even people who are currently employed, some of them are actually underemployed, and we see all those things. What sort of strategies, especially with a focus on the youth, would you employ to tackle issues related to unemployment in the country right now?
Private sector driven opportunity, tackle the power problem head on. People can work by themselves. A common school driver can create a path to fortune if electricity is taken care of and other infrastructural areas. Carrying them along. And the change of mindset, I will repeat that over and over again. Patriotic commitment, the conversion of negativity to a positive drive, and partnership with the private sector to create a job, to put the incentive there. If you hire 500 new employees, why can't I, as a government, give you some tax incentive to offset that payroll and the pension contribution that may be associated with it?
It's still long. He has a lot more to say, but I just wanted to play that bit because it has something to do with tax and also his idea of how to grow the economy. I think from time to time we should listen to some of the things that he said while he was campaigning, because one of the things you realize is that during the campaigning electioneering period, all you remember for the most part is bala blue blah, and that's it. I always wondered why he did what he did, because he acted as though something was happening. And they shake, leg they shake, Papa would nowhere. Those ones were waxing records, but his hands are not shaking apparently. And also, on a more serious note, the things that he said, his plans, I think these are things to actually check just to understand the way his mind works and the plans that he has for Nigeria, which of course is what you see in the policies that have been passed as laws and also been implemented right now. Moving away from that, what time is it? Okay. All right, so talking about tax, I want to play like a very short clip of what Oyedele says. That one in election, it's psychological. I mean, even if I don't agree, I cannot deny the fact that he won the election. Anyway, let's take a listen to this.
And your life changed. How significant? 2023, you were inaugurated, and your life changed. How significant was that for you?
Very significantly. Everything actually, both in terms of my career trajectory, which is a decision I took intentionally, so I'm not complaining. In terms of the financial sacrifices, maybe that is even now smaller looking back. The biggest.
So you were getting lower.
No, so it's just because the amount government was going to pay was going to be ridiculous. So I said, you know what, just cover the cost of what you asked me to do. You don't need to pay me a salary. And I'm also fine with that. It's a small sacrifice in the context of the impact that this can make. But the biggest sacrifice turns out to be the emotional impact, particularly on my family. At the height of it, there were people who would cook up stories on blogs, on newspapers. There were headlines that were really very difficult to understand, and it took a toll on my family. My wife, for example, was doing night vigil every night, and then, struggled to stay awake the following day. Thank God my kids are still too young, so they don't know exactly what we've been going through. But it's been tough. It's a big sacrifice. I think it's important to make the point that if Nigerians really truly want a better country, they should not discourage honest people who want to help. It's already a tough decision to try and work in the public sector. Making it harder than it needs to be is not very helpful.
On the 8th, he freely says that the president has the exclusive prerogative to decide who he chooses to run with as vice president. He freely chose our vice president, our current vice president, Senator Kashi Shettima, to be his vice president. And, I think it's wrong, quite frankly, for us, even for us in the party, to wake up in the morning on a day like this and begin to speculate about, who or how the president is going to choose his, our vice president in 2027. We have a sitting vice president, and that's all we care about, quite frankly, for today. Because, again, when you see the system of endorsement that we've witnessed, it's really about the president. And that is because in our primaries, it is the president who is on the ballot at that internal election. It's not the, twin ticket, the joint ticket that we have at the national election. So as a political party, we're very intentional. We don't bring in things that are not necessary in the moment. We deal with existential questions and plan towards the future.
All right, so that's from APC discussing the whole idea of the choice of the vice president, and the APC National Publicity Secretary, Felix Morka, says the president has the exclusive prerogative to decide who he chooses to run with as vice president. All right, moving away from APC, I want you to listen to Chief Bode George, who is the chieftain of the PDP and a member of the BOT. So please take a listen to him talk about what's happening in PDP.
This is a problem. Expanded purpose. But it does appear that is not happening. What exactly is happening, sir? It's strikingly annoying. This is our property. Was there any court order to say we will not hold our meetings in our home office? What is going on? I was a young man in 1962 when it all started in Southwest. We must avoid that midnight, that madness. What is it? Can't we sit and talk? What is the essence of democracy? Surrounded by police because we want to have a meeting? Well, where? You want to turn us to North Korea? Or turn this country into Russia? We will not allow it. All right, sir. Nigerians will not allow it. I can tell, I have seen both sides. Let them be very careful allow everybody to work according to the law of the land.
I also I spoke to some of.
Do you think we are not going to hold the meeting? Of course, we will hold the meeting.
Today?
You bet. We will hold the meeting. Look, location, our property. You know, the landlord was prevented from sitting down and discussing domestic problems, family problems. They locked it. That doesn't mean that there are no more other houses. This is the only building in Abuja.
We spoke to some of the policemen who said that actually it is to maintain law and order because of the conflicting notices that emerged yesterday.
Yesterday, and also that they got an order from above. So who is the above?
You can hear, biblically, you hear, this is the voice of Jacob, but the hand of Esau. Whoever is the thing that is other from the above is had it before. I have been on both sides, the military and the civil. So, let me please advise, allow sleeping dogs to lie. We have more problems, economic, financial, education, infrastructure. They should face that. Are you saying we PDP can? It is the only political Iroko tree in this country. You are saying we cannot stand? Can you tell Iroko tree in the bush that they cannot stand? Is it possible?
Hello, Chief. You're speaking in parable, hand of Esau, body of Jacob. Who is the Esau or who is the Jacob?
You don't need that unless you are not grown up to that. If he says that the other from above, where is the above? That's why I said the voice of Jacob, but the hand of Esau.
As an elder of the party, as an elder of the party.
Okay. To be honest, I think that's more Wike versus these people than they think. The idea that the presidency is the one going after the secretariat. By the way, has PDP even bought that secretariat? How many people know if you know Wadata Plaza in Zone 5? I don't know if they've bought it, but prayed for how a good tenant that will always be paying money. They should use Wadata Plaza as a point of contact because PDP has been there since 98, 99, thereabout. So I think it's more, maybe the FCT minister was flexing, but definitely that didn't look like the presidency had anything to do with that. Moving away from that and talking about party and defections, I'm going to read something from Reno. Peter Obi has said that if the coalition gives him their presidential ticket, he will honor them. He will honor their conditions and do one term, then hand over power to the North. I have a question for the North. Which promise has Peter Obi ever kept in his life? Did he keep his promise not to leave APGA? Did he keep his word to be loyal to Waziri Atiku? Did he stand by his vow to sue People's Gazette over the Yes Daddy audio in which he threatened religious war against the Muslim Ummah? Did he? If Peter Obi has not kept past promises, why would Mutani Arewa believe him when he says he will keep future pledges? The best predictor of the future is the past. Peter Obi swore to Dimimeka Ojukwu, the revered Igbo leader, not to leave APGA. Today, he has left APGA for PDP, left PDP for Labour, and is about to leave Labour for the coalition. If the North believes Peter Obi will do one term and hand over to them, then the North is indeed more gullible than anyone thought. President Bola Tinubu is the only candidate guaranteed to hand over to the North in 2031. Arewa should vote for him in 2027, and the Southwest and South-South will overwhelmingly vote for Arewa in 2031. And I say, I approve of that message. Meanwhile, I hope that when Tinubu is working on his succession plan, that the Northerner who takes over from him also has the same mindset, so that we can, keep building rather than going, 2 steps forwards and 2 steps forward and maybe 5, 6 backwards. All right, so moving away from that, we're almost done with today's stuff. Just 1 or 2 more things I have here. All right. So Peter Obi, of course, Peter Obi had a Twitter space a couple of days ago, and they had an interesting exchange that I would like to just play. Of what plans I think the young people have for him to help him become whatever it is they are dreaming of. So please take a listen to this. Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm not being why I won't be here. Can't find the video anymore. This is not the video I wanted to play. I'll find it. Let's do this one first while I search for that one. Sorry, that's not the video I'm looking for. This one is one of the propaganda of what they want people to believe. But there's another video. I'll see if I can find it. Mambo. All right, so I found it. Just gonna play it now.
Authority. There have been people within our midst who have started to question your authority, who have started to question the things that you do, the campaign style that you have chosen. The opposition is using a campaign style that is of a psychological warfare type. Are we allowed to use that? Because we can use the same tools, but if we do not know if you're comfortable with things like this, then we cannot be sure if you're going to back us in the future.
Can you give me an example of one of the tools?
Okay, Mr. President. Sorry, you're my president, so that's what I will call you. We have a TikTok app. It's an application. It's called TikTok. And on that application, you have millions of young people who are constantly on a daily basis being subjected to media of the current sitting president of the FCT, who is not supposed to be in power, and displaying him as though he is a drug baron, displaying him as though he's someone who is corrupt but still in power. That is an example. Media tools that have been created using AI, user-generated content using AI, that are not even created from actual videos or clips, to portray an image as though someone who is illegitimate can indeed still rule a country as powerful as Nigeria. That is an example. Thank you.
All right, so apparently there's a young lady who has a brilliant plan of using AI to fight this propaganda war, you know, and it is well. I'll bring people up now, so we'll have some people react to some of the conversations we've had, and then we'll move on to the topic shortly. So please, if you'd like to contribute, please send your request. Also, I don't know how it works on Twitter, but I'm very sure it's possible that we have one or two people who want to speak there. So please, if you're on Twitter, Thank you again for being here. Thank you for attending this space. So if you'd like to be part of the conversation, please send your request and we'll bring you up, and then we'll be able to hear your thoughts. So the way we do it here is we read the news, then we'll give our feedback, responses, and then we'll take everybody down. Then we get into the topic of today. And today we're discussing Victor Banjo, caught in the eye of the storm. We're talking about what happened with the invasion of the Midwest. It's going to be a fantastic session, I can promise you that. But before we get into all of that, if you would like to be part of the conversation, as far as the news is concerned, please send your request and then we'll hear your thoughts and we'll move on from there. Okay, I also find a way to patch you in so that folks on TikTok can hear you. So if you're on YouTube, if you're on there's a gentleman who wanted to speak on TikTok. I can't see him anymore. Anyway, maybe change his mind. Okay, if there's nobody who wants to say anything, we're just going to move swiftly and get into the conversation proper. All right. And like I said, you're going to like it. So it's good that we're starting early, so we have more time to get into stuff. Okay. All right. Meanwhile, let's do a little house cleaning or housekeeping rather. Please, power tab, share the live. I see things in the comment section on YouTube. Jesus Christ will bless the great work you're doing. Amen. Thank you very much, Kubo. And from Mudayake on both mother and father side. Wow. Awesome. Thank you. It's good to know that. God bless Chikwe Mamadi. Ojuku thoroughly trained Peter Obi and his likes in his deception. I think you're trying to say, okay, in his deceive and dump until you get what your ego wants strategy, and when you are found out, lie and lie and lie. You get it. All right. So let's get into this. All right. So let's get into this. It's going to be a fantastic session today. But first of all, please share the live, right? Or share the space. And then we're going to have like a fantastic, I can feel it. I got a feeling. It's going to be really nice. Okay. All right. Just give me a second. Let me catch my breath and then we'll get deep into this. Someone says, so sincerely, if the president is not performing well, we just support him because he's from our tribe. Which president is not performing well? First of all, ghost mode. Which president is not performing well? Maybe if you tell us, then we know exactly how to answer that question. Which one? Because I don't know any president who is not performing well. Maybe you're not talking about Nigeria, Sha. Maybe you're talking about another country. Welcome from Kennybe. Good to see you. Maybe you're talking about another country, but if you're talking about Nigeria, you may have to be specific, so I'll know how to answer you. Until then, listen and be blessed. Let's get into this. Oletia is back. Nigeria, of course. No, Nigeria is good. Nigeria is fantastic. The president is doing a fantastic job. I also know how you can't see it. And this is me assuming you can see. Or maybe my assumption is wrong. And for that, I apologize. So Elysia is back up. Let's quickly have our thoughts and then we'll move swiftly into today's conversation. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I don't have anything to say. I just want to listen to your fire bombs. I want to listen to your firebomb delivery today.
Oh, okay. But then, I'm going to have to take it down though, so that when we're now ready for the conversation, now be part of it. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Okay. So Ghost Mode, I was talking to you earlier on TikTok. Yes, the president is doing fantastically well, and I couldn't be more proud of what he's doing. I can only pray that this thing, moves very fast and that we have more stuff coming up. All right. If you don't see that, then please consult your ophthalmologist now. Having said that, let's get serious. Let's get into the business of today. So we've been talking about Victor Banjo caught in the storm. We talked about the things that happened to him, how he was raised, talked about his parents, his father called a wigless lawyer because of his fantastic knowledge of the law. Talked about how he was raised. He was born in British Cameroon, brought back to Nigeria, eventually went to school, went to Sanders, joined the army as a warrant officer in 1953, and then eventually went to University of London, studied mechanical engineering, and he became the first Nigerian director of the electrical and mechanical corps of the army. And we also said that Olusegun Obasanjo had worked with him at some point, and so that made sense to understand that when Wole Soyinka eventually went to Enugu around June of 1967, it made sense that Soyinka would receive a message from him to help him reach out to Obasanjo because he was trying to get into Yoruba land. Also sent him messages to the civilian leaders of the Yoruba to allow entry into the Western region. And I remember saying that, the books that we read, that initially Yoruba people wanted him to come back to Yoruba land to help build up the army. That was when all the soldiers from different regions were being sent back to their regions of origin, and they were expecting him to join. However, he was busy working with Biafran army, trying to raise an army. And, he started with the militia and eventually created something called the 101st Brigade of the Biafran army. That 101st Brigade, of course, he decided to name it the Liberation Army of Nigeria. And although he did not believe in the ideas of Ojukwu, which was essentially secessionist, he thought that he would be able to take advantage of whatever it was that Ojukwu was going to provide him, which would be the army, the arms and ammunition that it would then use to quote-unquote liberate Yoruba land from the stranglehold of the northern hegemony of northern elites, or of the north, essentially, Hausa and Fulani. And that was what it was all about for him. He was dedicated to that, and that's why he didn't bother coming to Yoruba land at the time. But fast forward a couple of months later, he sent a message to Yoruba leaders asking them to be open to him, to allow him get into Yoruba land. And I think it makes sense that they would do that because that was the exact same tactic they used in the Midwest. Yorubas have a saying that there's no way Biafrans will be able to get into the Midwest without some saboteurs within the Midwest. So the Midwest had, by the way, like I said yesterday, historically, it's a fact that there are Igbo people in the Midwest or in present-day Delta State. And so but that doesn't mean that the entire place is Igbo land. It doesn't even mean that Anyoma is Igbo land. I'll say it again. But there are Igbos there, and they have a space there, and they've always been there, at least since Nigeria, or before Nigeria itself. One of these days we're going to do a session on the history of the Midwest, and maybe that will help us understand that area a bit more. Anyway, I should write that down. We don't start again today. There are materials on that, or maybe just the history of people in the other side of town. Because again, so one of the things that's quite disappointing is that people who disagree with the things that we say, for the most part, don't even bother, saying anything that's scholarly or academic. They just get angry and talk. So maybe they don't know, and then we can all learn together. Anyway, the reason they were able to get into the Midwest, talking about Biafran Army or the Liberation Army of Nigeria, that as Victor Banjo preferred to call it, was that they had some people within Biafra. And those people, of course, were the Midwest Igbos. Now, if you go back to September of 1966, you remember that when Ojukwu was ejecting non-Easterners from the East. He did not eject Igbo Midwesterners. So if you were from the Midwest region but you were Igbo, you could stay. But if you were not from the East and you were not Igbo, you are out. And so I guess one good turn deserves another. So by the time he was ready to get into the Midwest, they opened, the gates to him. Of course, when you read the book by Godwin Labi Sama, he gave some of the names of those people like Wanwo, Conrad Wanwo, people like Oche, Isiche, Okuchime, a number of them like that who were Igbos who conspired with Biafra in order to gain access into the Midwest. So today we're going to spend some time talking about that because you can't talk about Victor Banjo without talking about the Republic of Benin. They actually created something where they quote-unquote liberated the Midwest and decided to name it Republic of Benin. Now, we mentioned some things yesterday. We might still get into them today, but I don't want to go back to the book. So in case, thank God now we're able to replay past sessions. So if you miss any session, you can check it out on YouTube, Busui Oris, and then you can, watch it all over again. So we may not go into everything we discussed before today, but we're going to, of course, get into some of those things. So let's start with just a little recap, and then we'll move into the book by Uyilawa. So let's start with this one and one more. I'm trying to find the second one. Okay. So I read this yesterday. The book again is called Why We Struck. So I'll start with two books and then we'll move to other books much later. So this one is called Why We Struck. It's by Adewale Ademoyega. And this one is called Colonel Victor Banjo, A Revolutionary Betrayed. This one is by Nii Aborishade. So we'll start with this two and then we'll move to others very soon. So let's do this first. There's something I think will open up the conversation itself. So it says, on 9th August 1967, in a swift military operation codenamed Torch, Brigadier Victor Banjo led his Liberation Army of Nigeria across the River Niger Bridge into Asaba. He split up his army on reaching Agbo with the 12th Battalion under Lieutenant Colonel Akaga, moving west and capturing Benin and Ore. Ore is a Yoruba commercial frontier town on the Shagamu-Benin Highway in Ondo State. The 13th Battalion under Lieutenant Colonel Mike Ivonso took Auchi, Agenebote, and Okene. The 18th Battalion under Major Chukwuka was saddled with the responsibility of taking Warri, Saple, and Ueli, which they did successfully. Within 12 hours, the Liberation Army of Nigeria had completely taken the Midwest. So, by the way, while this was happening, the federal government did not know they were planning anything like this. It was, done in secrecy. They were busy with the Nsukka sector, which, we read some that happened there. That was where Ojukwu sent a juju man to be shouting, "Go on, Afuna Ozo." By the way, if you understand Igbo, please let us know what. While he was doing that, the man heard the sound of mortar, and he changed his mind. Just like the other young men who, Ilari Njoku. By the way, what I just said right now, you find it in the book by Ilari Njoku. The book is called A Tragedy Without Heroes. He mentioned how Ojukwu had young men to go fight the Nigerian army, but he gave them machetes. Please, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, if at any point in time you don't hear what I'm saying, maybe the mic goes off, please let me know. I'll find another way to make sure I'm able to patch you in without having to go through all of this. But please, if you're not hearing or listening to what I'm saying properly, please let me know so I can change the mic. But I think we're still good for now. Anyway, so if you read the book A Tragedy Without Heroes by Hilary Njoku, you would see what I just said happened there. So while Nigeria was busy dealing with them there, they were very smart to do the other thing by coming in through the Midwest. Now, let me quickly say something. Whenever you hear people say things like, oh, they went through the Midwest because they were going to Lagos. Lagos was the capital. That's why they were going there. It is not true. I'm going to read to you a particular claim that Ojukwu himself made, which again, no surprises, is not true. So 1 second, I'm going to find the book. The book is There Was a Country by Chinua Achebe. Ambo. One second. All right, so this is from Ojukwu. Sorry, this is Chinua Achebe quoting Ojukwu. All right, so the book is called There Was a Country. The other author is Chinua Achebe. He says here, our motive was not territorial ambition. So, in fact, let me just start from the way it started. The Biafran response became an advance, leading to the taking of a large swath of the Midwestern region in a surprise maneuver that the Nigerian federal troops had not anticipated. Ojukwu explained his ambitious plan this way. Our motive was not territorial ambition or the desire of conquest. We went into the Midwest, later declared the Republic of Benin, purely in an effort to seize the serpent by the head. Every other activity in the Republic was subordinated to that single aim. We were going to Lagos to seize the villain Gowon, and we took necessary military precautions. Now, of course, that is not true. How do I know? Because you see, sometimes a person might say something and do something totally different. By the way, this is from one of his speeches. This is from Odumegwu Ojukwu Biafra, selected speeches with Journal of Events. But let me just read something to you. Despite the euphoric verbal heroics espoused by Ojukwu, John de Senjo, that's the writer of the book called The Nigerian Civil War, he says that the Biafrans stormed through the Midwest, not in the usual massive impedimenta of modern warfare, but in a bizarre collection of private cars, mammy wagons, cattle, and vegetable trucks. The command vehicle was a Peugeot 404 estate car. The whole operation was not carried out by an army or even a brigade, but by at most 1,000 men, the majority poorly trained and armed, and many wearing civilian clothes because they had not been issued with uniforms. This, by the way, is corroborated by Ademoyiga when he talked about how he was able to put an army together, and they didn't have uniforms, they didn't have guns, but guess what? Ojukwu called them the largest, strongest army in Black Africa, and it was banking on them to destroy Nigeria, even when everybody was begging him not to fight. And by the way, just to be clear, when people say things like Nigeria started war, no. When you declare secession, you just declared war. Okay, and if everybody told you not to do so, I don't see any reason. By the way, I've noticed that regardless of, what it is, people will support who they want, and they will, make a hero of whoever they want to, and that's fine. Your hero should, whatever you want to choose is fine, but you don't get to redefine Nigeria's history because it doesn't fit into the context of whatever you thought your hero did. All right, having said that, let me read something to you, and I'm going to go back to the book by Chinua Achebe in a bit to talk about what Ojukwu said, because Ojukwu lied in that particular statement. But I'm going to get back to that in a bit. Let's quickly read something from Why We Struck by Adewale Ademoyiga. It says here on page 203, he says, I spent that day with Chukwuka in Warri. Who is Chukwuka? Humphrey Chukwuka was one of the people who planned the coup of January 15, 1966. He was in the east and was released by Ojukwu. But Ademoyiga, who was also one of the planners of the coup, was detained in Warri, and Chukwuka had come to release him. So he says here, I spent the day with Chukwuka in Warri. He had instructions to send me to Benin as soon as I was released, but he was yet to gather the arms and ammunition which he was to send with me. What does this mean? It means that one of the plans that Ojukwu had was to use Nigeria weapons to fight Nigeria. In other words, at this point in time, he wasn't really bothered about, Well, he had some weapons, but not enough apparently. So the idea was they invaded the Midwest to cut away the weapons in the Midwest. Why am I saying this? Because again, look at what he said. Our motive was not territorial ambition or the desire of conquest. They conquered the place. They collected guns from different towns in the Midwest. So it wasn't about just moving through. It was also about taking weapons. And it was more than that. We're going to get to other things later. So it says here, I spent the day with Chukwuka and Wari. He had instructions to send me to Benin as soon as I was released, but he was yet to gather the arms and ammunition which he was to send with me. There and then, I understood that all kinds of military stores were in short supply in Biafra. Rifles, machine guns, ammunition, artillery, armored vehicles, planes, and whatnot. I was no longer surprised because Nzogu had written about this much earlier. What I was saying basically was that Nzogu and Ademoyiga, they were writing each other before Nzongu was killed in the Nsukka sector. We drove to the police station and took possession of all their old Mark IV bolt action, single round rifles and all the available ammunition. It all amounted to very little. After that, there was nothing else except to choose his own headquarters location. Please, if you're on TikTok, please power tap. If you're on YouTube, please like the live. Let all of us like and share. Thank you so much for your support. So he says it all amounted to very little. After that, there was nothing else except to choose his own headquarters location. We soon chose a secondary school towards the lagoon side, and there we settled for the night. He went and made a broadcast over the local radio soon after Lieutenant Colonel Banjo, the commander of the Liberation Army, had made his own broadcast from Benin. I'd like us to take not a second, because it's quite long, to just read part of the broadcast, the transcript of the broadcast that Banjo made in Benin at this time. And why is this important? Because again, we want to understand his motivations, we want to understand what it was about and his goals and his objectives. Banjo presented a live broadcast on 14th August 1967. And this is the broadcast. Fellow Nigerians and Biafrans, I am sure I do not need to introduce myself to you, nor perhaps to many people outside the country. You have already had ample opportunity to hear my name in January 1966, when this political crisis started in our country. Unfortunately, at that time, I also heard about the circumstances under which my name was being publicized at a time when I was in no position to do anything about it. I was then accused of attempting the life of the late Supreme Commander, Major General J.T. Aguiyi-Ironsi, and for the attempt, I was arrested and detained. If you were not here when we started, we said that although Victor Banjo was one of those people who helped Aguiyi-Ironsi to power on the 16th of, between 15th and 16th of January 1966, by 17th of January, he was summoned to see Ironsi. And while he was in the anteroom, was in the reception room, two officers, Kurubo and Awuna, went to meet him and then asked him for his gun, the gun in his holster. He gives it to them, they check it, they admire it, and then they turn it on him, and they're going to kill him. Around that particular period, they already released the news that he was killed in an assassination attempt on the new head of state, Aguiyi-Ironsi. In other words, they already announced that he was dead even before they went to pick him or before they went to try to kill him. And when you read the book by Adeton Ogunsheye, the book is called A Break in the Silence, you understand why they did not kill him. The only reason was because there was a foreign visitor in the reception room at the time. Anyway, from there, from the office of the head of state, he was taken to a ship, a naval ship, and then from there to Kirikiri, from Kirikiri to Aba, from Aba to Ikorekpene, from Ikorekpene to Enugu. And so, again, like I always say, he was betrayed first by Ironsi and then by Ojukwu. The treachery runs deep, okay? Runs very deep. But for Ironsi, whom he helped to get into power, to then turn around about a day after he became the substantive head of state, meant he was just cleaning the house. He was trying to ensure that no one could threaten his position. And this goes for all the officers that were killed before the end of the coup. And that's why I keep saying, and I'll say it again, at least, not at most, at least 2 coups happened on January 15th. There was a revolutionary coup that was carried out by people like Nzogu and people like Ademoega, but that was not the coup. It was a coup. It was successful in the north, not so successful in the south. But there was another coup. That other coup was an ethnic coup. That one succeeded. It was that coup that brought in Aguiyi-Ironsi. And what Aguiyi-Ironsi really did was to use the first coup in order to achieve the goal of the second coup. Why? Because everywhere you looked, you saw him dropping hints, even unknown to himself. And even on the day that the coup itself was executed, there were certain things that he said. If you're interested, I think we made some videos about that, but maybe we'll do it again some other time. But if you read the book by J. Isawa Eligo, the book is called Go On, The Biography of a Soldier Statesman. And if you read also A Tragedy Without Heroes by Ilari Njoku, you will see this. You will read the statements that Ironsi made before and after the coup, suggesting that he was in on it. And of course, to make it more interesting, kindly get the book by Shehu Shagari. It's called Beckon to Serve. I can't promise I can get you that book, but others I think we have in Redomi Books on Telegram, right? What you notice essentially is when you read Beckon to Serve by Shehu Shagari and you piece it together with those other books, you discover not only did he have full knowledge of it, he was in on it and it was part of the plan. And so was Orizu, and so was Azikiwe, and the lot of them. Okay? And they did it so well that nobody even thought to look, unless of course you piece information together from several books, you may not even, come to that, well, you may decide that that's what it is, but you may not be able to substantiate your claims. Anyway, the point is that there was an Igbo coup, and that was one that succeeded. The ethnic coup was an Igbo coup, and the whole idea was to fulfill a vision that they had about 22 years before that point to become the dominant people in Nigerian polity and in everything Nigeria, by the way. Again, like I always say when I say things like this, I'm not saying that the entire ethnic group sent them to do it, but I'm saying they did it for their ethnic group. And if they succeeded, which they did, whenever they succeeded, the people who benefited were not just those leaders, it was also the ethnic group. And that's what you see, for instance, between 1960 and 1964 in the Federal Civil Service of Nigeria and how the Igbos took over all those places. They did not take over those places because they were more qualified than any other person. They took over those places because they used nepotism. And if you don't believe me, please join Redomi Global. You can join on Telegram. We have a library there. Let me write the address, the link rather. You should join Redomi Global on Telegram, okay? Okay, I already put it on. I thought I was writing on YouTube. Apparently it was on TikTok. So let's do it on YouTube as well. Why can't I type on YouTube? T-Goat Backup, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. You're making my work easier. So let's try and do it on YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube, you want to get into the channel, please do. And I will tell you why I'm putting this out. There's a particular material I think will help you understand what I just said right now. It's called the White Paper on the Federal Civil Service or something like that. Let me look for the title. Man, let me not murder it. But if you get there, you find it. Let me just check it quickly. Then I'll tell you what the title is. If you join our Telegram channel, you'll be able to access it. Don't worry, you're not paying anything. It's free. Thank Jesus. Thank God. Don't worry. Ofeni Bala. Lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́ ní bàbá fún wa pàmpàm. Lọ́fẹ̀ẹ́ ní bàbá fún wa. Àlàáfíà. Where is that thing? White Paper, the new political alignment in Western Nigeria. It was written by the Western Caucus of the NCNC. And then you see what happened with the Federal Civil Service and the jobs they gave out between 1960 and 1964 and how the Igbos dominated that place. Again, like I said, I'm not saying that the Igbo people are bad people and they did it, they wanted to dominate everybody. I'm saying that the leadership, and if you understand anything about leadership, everybody in your town doesn't have to decide. If your leaders decide to do something, thanks for the gift. If your leaders decide to do something and that thing benefits you, you can't turn around tomorrow and say, I didn't send them. because when it benefited you, you did not protest. You took advantage of it. Okay, and it's the exact same thing you also saw by May of '66 after Ironsi became the head of state. All his advisors were Igbo, which makes you understand why they will come up with a very interesting idea like unitary system in Nigeria, because it was something they've always talked about as Igbo people. You see it, for instance, in the works of Azikiwe, even though there were times when he would say he preferred federal structure or federal system, but then he vacillated a lot, so you didn't even know where he stood. But yeah, there was a time he toyed with that. So he would do unitary for a while, go to federal, then go back to unitary. Eventually, when they got power, they implemented something that, like I said the other day, even the British did not have the mind. You know how we talk the British did not get the kind of mind to do the kind of thing way those guys do, because they understood the complexity of Nigeria, so they didn't even bother in all of the terrible things that you may want to accuse them of doing. One thing they did not do was to model everything up. As bad as it was still better than what Ironsi and his cohorts did, and that changed the structure of Nigeria forever. This is 2025. It's 59 years after. We're still trying to see if we can, salvage whatever it is we have in the country, and I hope we get to do that. But it's important to mention that because it helps to put things in perspective. Anyway, he's saying here, Victor Banjo, that he was detained by Ironsi. And like I said, not only was it, we can't just call it arrest and detainment or detention or whatever. Is it detainment? Detainment? Yeah. It was more than that. It was treachery, it was betrayal, and it was something that was done intentionally to put him down. Why? Because during the very first coup, every single officer who could become a problem for Ironsi was killed. If they were in the country, they were killed. You don't have to search for it on Telegram. Just take the link. Just take that link. Put it in your browser, t.me/Redomi Global. Put it in your browser. Click on it. Whatever it brings, just join. But the bookshop is Redomi Books. Okay? Some of these books are there. And yeah. Not generality. I need to put some stuff, some books there as well. Anyway, so please check it out on Telegram. Just take the link, put it in your browser. You'll be able to access the channel. All right. So I was saying that every single officer who could be a threat to Ironsi was taken out in January. And so people like Ademulegun out, Shodeinde out, Kam Mohammed out, Memalari out, Lagema out, Pam out. Those 6 were out. They were senior officers, especially Ademulegun. The other guys that were senior, that they were not killed, and they were not Igbos, those ones, people like Babafemi Ogundipe, people like Adenka Adebayo, people like Adekunle, those ones, they were not in town, and they were not definitely in Lagos. The ones that were around, Lagos, Kaduna, killed everybody. Enugu, nothing happened there. Now, after all of them were dead, the most senior officer that was around at the time was Victor Banjo. So it made sense that a day after he came into power, he would send him packing and even organize to kill him. And that's why if you read Victor Banjo's letter, written on 1st of June 1966, while he was in prison at Ikorekpene, he mentioned that it's difficult to believe that you were sitting 20 feet away from that incident. You are telling me that you didn't know about it. Okay, so he definitely knew about it. Moving on from there, back to the broadcast by Victor Banjo. So he says, fellow Nigerians and Biafrans, by the way, for a person who, that didn't support Biafra, to even be saying fellow Nigerians, he still had it at his mind that he went to rescue Nigeria from whatever it was he was trying to rescue us from. You know what? I would understand if they were trying to rescue Nigeria from Murtala Mohammed, but from Gowon, I don't really get it, but let's continue. Fellow Nigerians and Biafrans, I am sure I do not need to introduce myself to you, nor perhaps to many people outside the country. You have already had ample opportunity to hear my name in January 1966 when this political crisis started in our country. Unfortunately, at that time, I also heard about the circumstances under which my name was being publicized at a time when I was in no position to do anything about it. I was then accused of attempting the life of the late Supreme Commander, Major General J.T. Aguiyi-Ironsi, and for the attempt, I was arrested and detained. 1 second, please. Fellow Nigerians, Nothing could be farther from the truth. The army mutiny, which started the revolution in January 66, was as much a surprise to me as was to some of my colleagues. Interestingly, it wasn't a surprise to Iransi at all. Again, I've done sessions on this before. We'll do it again if need be. Unze, what do you do for a living? Ask your dad. Ask your dad, eh? Fellow Nigerians, nothing could be farther from the truth. The army mutiny, which started the revolution in January 1966, was as much a surprise to me as was to some of my colleagues. I spent all my time studying some of the events to ascertain the true state of affairs in the country. My colleague then was Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon, who was the first officer to give me precise information about the state of affairs. It then appeared to me that sufficient steps had been taken to ensure the removal of several governments of the Federation, and that the totality of the trend of events could be regarded as the beginning of a national revolution. I then considered it my duty to ensure that no further military action took place, which might have the effect of totally destroying the nation. I felt that the young officers who had started the action were only anxious to destroy what had been the most corrupt and discredited government. As such, I spent considerable time urging the late Major General Aguiyi-Ironsi to assume responsibility for the state with the support of the army to ensure that the Nigerian nation remained united and was protected from national collapse. 1 second, please. On YouTube, someone said there must be something wrong with Banjo. How can you escape from Ironsi and immediately jump into Ojuku's wagon? Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. Don't talk like that. See, Orosheniwo. Sorry, I had to pause because I thought that was heavy. Victor Banjo did not jump from Ironsi to join Ojuku. That's not what happened. And I think oversimplifying stuff and making it so simplistic, actually, when we do that, we run the risk of misjudging, if there's anything like that. And I think there is. So Ojuku imprisoned him January 17. Sorry, I said Ojuku. Sorry, Ironsi imprisoned him, detained him in the ship, from the ship to Kirikiri in prison, from Kirikiri to Aba, from Aba to Ikorekpene, from Ikorekpene to Enugu. He was in prison all this while. Vindipo, not here, please. Not here. Not here. He was in prison and then he was released by Ojuku. Why were they moving from? I don't know. They did it for many of those people. By the way, he also said that he was trying to save him in February. In the space of 4 months, he was in 3 cities. Within the space of 4 months, the man was in 3 cities. Okay? And then eventually landed in Enugu. It was not like Ojuku, it wasn't like Victor Banjo was in prison in Lagos. Ironsi then sets him free. Then he got on a bus and traveled to Enugu and says to Ojuku, hey, my friend, I'm going to fight on your side. That's not what happened. Vimpol, this is not the platform. I'll block you, Okiwobele. This is not the platform for that. Do you hear me talking about Kini? I was talking history. Hey, Joe, if you want to have your whatever, open it live and discuss it, please. 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 And I think I've tried enough. If you right again, well, I'll block you because we are Yoruba people now. You should know how to conduct yourself, how to comport yourself. You can't just go into another person's space, regardless of what they are saying. Just drop what you want to do there because that's what your own passion is. If it's your passion, have a session about it. Is Igbo or relocate? Next time it comes up, I'll block you because Mirai will rather die. Which one? Which one? Which one?
Not that this person jumped from Lagos and went to meet was that he was moved from town to town, city to city, from January up until May, January of 1966
until May, January of 1966 till May of 1967. All that time he was in prison. That's more than a year. That's about 15 months. 16 actually. And then he was released by Ojukwu. And then he worked with the person who released him, who he had known even before he was arrested. That information is very, very important. So we don't just say, he's a terrible person, doesn't have sense, all those things. All right? Let's remember that. Thank you. Let's go back to this. So he says, I felt that the young officers who had started the action were only anxious to destroy what had been the most corrupt and discredited government. As such, I spent considerable time. By the way, I'm not saying that what he did was right, though. He was very naive, but I also don't want to just jump to the thing of saying, Burukuni and so on and so forth. All right? Thank you very much, Rainmaker and Pastor Tunde. Let's continue. As such, I spent considerable time urging the late Major General Ironsi to assume responsibility for the state. By the way, this is what I noticed with Yoruba bots. They usually think they have bright ideas. They don't even know they are being used. And I'll quickly explain. When you read the book by Adewale Ademoyiga, he made a show of the fact that he was one of the first 3 people who started planning the coup. And then they were going to change Nigeria. Not knowing that he was the last person that they actually recruited. You only discover that when you read the special branch report of April 1966, that he was actually the last of the 7 people, 5 majors and 2 captains, to plan the coup. Sorry guys, 1 second. Now, Mbo, wọ́n ṣì wọ́n wà ní o, àti YouTube o, àti kí ló ti ń pè, àti TikTok o, wọ́n ṣì wọ́n lẹ́ẹ̀kan náà ni. And I think my moderator is busy for now. So please bear with me. But please, everybody, please power tap on TikTok especially. Ṣé pé àwọn èèyàn wọn ràn wá tó sí. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ má yẹ kí ní ikú bó ṣe kú lánàá. Ẹ ṣé. Where was I? Yes, the Yoruba bots, the Yoruba idealistic Yoruba people, the tribalized ones, they do something funny. They have the idea that they are the ones actually doing something. Like, so for instance, you look at someone like Ademoyiga, he will say something like, I was one of the 3 people, and you can even believe that it was in 1961 that the seed of the revolution was planted when I first met those 2 others. He's talking about Nzogu and Ifajuna. That's what he said. When you read the special branch report, you discover that the original people that planned that coup, thank you, Yetunde, thank you. The original people that planned that coup were Ifajuna, Okafor, and Oji. I say it every time, but I say it again and again because of new people who join. When you put those 3 people together, then they add Chukwuka, then they brought in Anuforo, Anuforo brought in Uzogu, Uzogu then brought in Ademoyiga. But Ademoyiga is making look as if it was one of the original planners. Now, is he part of the coup planners? Yes. Is he part of the original 3? No. What happened to him is exactly what's happening to Victor Banjo as well. And who is speaking here? Victor Banjo himself is talking. This is his radio broadcast at Benin, in Benin. He said, I spent considerable time urging the late Major General Ironsi to assume responsibility for the state with the support of the army. Now, he thought he was doing something. He was one who convinced him. But in reality, when you read the book by Gowon, sorry, the book that's titled Gowon, it's by J. Isawa Elaigo. Gowon said, the night before, this is the night of the 14th, the coup took place. Ironsi told him that you talk to him and his girlfriend, Evelyn. You guys should have a great time because nobody knows tomorrow. When you read, I mean, that you may say that doesn't really mean anything. Well, maybe you have a point there. So he said nobody knows tomorrow. And he was wondering, like, why would you say that to me? We're just living a party that tells us to have fun because nobody knows tomorrow. And he didn't think much of it until after the coup happened. If you read them, there's a book that just came to my mind right now. Yes, Bengbule. The book is called Nigeria's Five Majors. He said that on the day of the coup itself, the 8th hour, the D-Day, that both Okafor and Oji betrayed the cause. They betrayed the revolution by ensuring that nothing happened to Ironsi, because Ironsi was from the same town as Oji, which was Umaya. And then he said it was too much of a coincidence. These were his own words. The book again is called Nigeria's Five Majors. He said it was too much of a coincidence that while Oji and Okafor were driving to Ironsi's house, Ironsi was also driving away from the house. And that's why when you read the book by Ademoyega, Why We Struck, and Okafor just comes along and says to him, I've lost all my men, I couldn't accomplish anything. You begin to wonder, why couldn't he accomplish anything? Because he was not supposed to accomplish anything. So think about it. Okafor and Oji, part of the original three guys, did not do anything. Ifajuna, part of the original three guys, after unaliving Memalari, carried Okafor, that same Okafor, and traveled to Enugu and got to Enugu by afternoon. Meanwhile, Ademoyega did not know that they had left. One more thing. When you read the book by Hilary M. Njoku, A Tragedy Without Heroes, he mentioned that on that 15th in the morning, early in the morning, around 5 a.m. In fact, let me start with the one by Gowon. Let me finish with Gowon. Around 5 a.m. with Gowon. Gowon was there with the boys. Njoku was also there. And the reason I'm talking about the two books is because both of them were there at the same time and they wrote about it. So you put it together, you can create the scene. There's another third person that came later. That was David Ejo. He also wrote another book. It's called Reminiscences. We'll get to that much later. Anyway, Gowon said when he got to the office, to the GOC's office, the GOC told the boys to wait 2 more hours. Why on earth would you wait 2 more hours to go chase the people who caused Wala? So they decided Wala 3 a.m. We are together at 5 a.m. You are telling the boys to wait until 7 a.m. Why? It was actually Gowon. That's why I said Ironsi did not quell any coup in Nigeria. Ironsi was part of a coup and he took advantage of it fully. It was Gowon who said, boys, I give you 15 minutes. We've got to go now. And that was how they left. But before they left, Njoku said, while they were there, Ironsi muttered to himself, but they said they will kill nobody. They said they will not kill anybody. After a while, he said it again. He said, but they said there will be no bloodshed. What does that tell you? In the planning of it, the only thing that they disapproved of was killing. Not taking over or having a coup or any of those things. So why did I say that? If a person knew all of those things, and I've given like 3 sources right now, I've given 4 sources. Gowon, The Biography of a Soldier Statesman by J. Samuel Laigo. I've given you Nigeria's 5 Majors by Bengbule. I've given you the Special Branch Report of April 1966, and I've given you A Tragedy Without Heroes by Hilary Njoku. If, according to these 4 sources, this person knew about it and was protected from the wahala that happened because of the coup, and you now read this book by Nia Borishade, Colonel Victor Banjo, and you see Victor Banjo's own statement that he was the one who convinced Ironsi to do something, would you not think that Yoruba people that do all this Yoruba, but we are just fooling ourselves? You are advising the person. Let me give you one more source, a 5th source. Beckon to serve. This same Ironsi that said, that this man is saying he was one who convinced to take over power. Ironsi went to Orizu's place where NCNC parliamentarians and MPC parliamentarians were meeting, took Orizu aside for 40 minutes, had a conversation with him. Definitely Azikiwe was patched in because Azikiwe mentioned that he had a call with Orizu much later in the evening of the 16th. They had a conversation right there. They discussed for 40 minutes. You're telling me you're the one who made him do anything? So I'm saying that to the pure, all things are pure. The Yoruba obedience, Yoruba bots, the detribalized, I don't even know what that word means. Well, I know, but it doesn't mean anything sensible. The idea of being detribalized, you are a tool. Not in my hands. You know how you watch Pefti? You are a pencil in the hand of creator. You are a pencil in the hand of propagandists and those who have a way to think. You know what they call ethnic jingoism? That's the basis of their thought. But you are thinking, oh, we are all Nigeria. There's no need for ethnicity. Let's remove state of origin. Let's have this thing. Peter Obi is in. Let me tell you something. You are joking. By the way, I don't like the idea of Peter Obi being in president, even being in anything politics, apart from in Anambra State. That's me, Shao. That's me. I mean, all, God bless him. God increase him. But as far as politics is concerned, yeah, in that region is fine. Because there's nothing I see that actually. I wonder what's the excitement with these kids. What's the excitement? Because they are mostly children. What's the excitement? What is it that this person has done that is making you? Because you look through the videos, irony. I have one wristwatch for 17 years. I have one shoe. Like it's just all these things just put together. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that idea that you think you are putting in their minds, I suggested something to them to take over Nigeria. They already had it before you came along. And that's why it was very easy to dispose of someone like him, Victor Banjo. Let's go back to his speech. It says, as such, I spent considerable time urging the late Major General Ironsi to assume responsibility for the state with the support of the army to ensure that the Nigerian nation remained united and was protected from national collapse. It was then my view that any attempt to use the Nigerian army for any military action within Nigeria would only have the effect of breaking the army into its tribal components, of which the northern component would represent the lion's share. By the way, the East had most officers, the North had the most soldiers. Rokenimbe on TikTok, yes. Yes, like that one. If you're Yoruba and you pander towards any other group, you're not serious. And all these things that people do for whatever reason, doesn't make sense. Someone on YouTube says Lieutenant Colonel Palm's wife confronted General Ironsi and accused him of being part of those who killed her husband because of his refusal to send help when she and Palm had called General Ironsi for help. Thank you very much for supplying that. Please, can you send me the source of that information? I'd like to study it a bit more, but thank you. I think I've seen it somewhere else before, but thank you for putting it out there again. Igbiola, good to see you. Good afternoon. And it's true. It's true. Palm was killed. Lagema even called. I think it was it was Lagema Palm who. No. It was Palm who called Ironsi when the boys were trying to get him at his place. You know, you know the funny thing that happened that night? Palm called Ironsi or what was going to happen, which was a joke because Ironsi already knew what was going to happen before it happened. Anyway, Malari escaped from, was it Okafor? One of those guys escaped, and then he saw Ifajina, who he considered to be a friend. At least they worked together. Went to meet Ifajina, who then summarily executed him. Mimalari did not know that the person he was running to was part of the plotters. And it was he who killed Mimalari. So they are reporting themselves to the person that will kill them. So that was what Palm did, essentially, telling Ironsi. Ironsi could have as well just take phone and just call other people. Now, where in they be that to go meet them there? It is well. Back to this book. So he says, it was then my view that please, if you're on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, please comment. Apparently these things help the live sessions on this platform. So please, whatever comes to your mind, hopefully something positive, please write it there. So that also helps other people, also helps even me to understand this stuff even better, like what Kobo just wrote there. Knowledge is never enough. So if you have something to share, just write in the comment section. and or if you have something you just heard you want to say something about, please feel free to write it. Those things help the live sessions. All right, having said that, let's get back to Colonel Banjo's broadcast. It says, it was then my view that any attempt to use the Nigerian army for any military action within Nigeria would only have the effect of breaking the army into its tribal components, of which the northern component would represent the lion's share. This northern component, effectively under the control of the northern feudalists, this is the issue for him. This northern component, effectively under the control of the northern feudalists, will then be inevitably employed to impose on the rest of Nigeria the most repressive northern domination. I was one of the senior officers of the Nigerian army who decided to accept responsibility for Nigeria. In fact, on that occasion, I was the chief spokesman for the decision. I therefore consider it my duty to remain with the general as closely as possible, rather than accept the office of the military governor of the West, which he then proposed to me, and which I declined in favor of the late Colonel Adekunle Fajui. On the day after the general had assumed full responsibility for the state, I was arrested by a few of my guys. Listen to it though. On the day after. When was the coup? It was on a Saturday, 15th January 1966. When did Iransi become head of state? It was on a Sunday. Best believe it. Iransi became head of state on a Sunday, 16th of January 1966. When was Victor Banjo arrested? On a Monday, the very next day. Monday, 17th of January 1966. This was the same Banjo that they wanted to make the governor of the Western Region. Anybody who calls you a traitor in Nigeria, just know that that person, his ethnicity is full of them. So say to the person, you are the one. It gets worse, but let's continue. They've succeeded in instilling their fear into that man. It's not about fear, it's ignorance. What is wrong with many of us? See, if it was fear, oh my, fear is bad. Sorry guys, I'm going to take a second to just respond to this comment. Fear is bad, but I would rather people are afraid than ignorant, because at least you know what the truth is. You just chose to be a coward. But many of these guys are not cowards really. They are just ignorant. And you see, position in society does not make you knowledgeable. So for instance, if you don't read about a thing, one second, if you don't read about some things and you become the president of Nigeria, just because you are the president of Nigeria does not mean you will automatically know those things. You are either exposed to that information or you find it yourself. So the issue with many of our people is they don't even know. And because they don't know, we have a duty to talk about it. So please share the lives, share the videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook, share on Twitter, because our people do not know. And I also think that, to be honest, when that thing happened, what you're referring to, that the pastor said, I just thought that it was an opportunity to teach. To teach. Thank you, DJ TY. He says, in fear, you are conflicted. If you are ignorant, you blast off with vacuous confidence. That's the point. You'll be talking as if you know what you're saying. And the craziest part, this man has a huge platform. Not just his church. He has this thing he does every morning, where he has this prayer stuff, where people from different places listen to him. They could just pick up that thing and think he has said something grand. And I'll say it again, what he said, that particular, I mean, not every other thing he has said. He's a good man, to be honest. He's actually a good man. But that statement is arrant nonsense. Absolute rubbish. Nothing but ignorance. Ignorance on steroids. And just because you have a crowd or you have a platform does not mean you somehow have information. Doesn't know the history of Yoruba people. He doesn't even understand that he has been taken in by propaganda. He repeats things like they are his own ideas. And this is what happens. I've said it several times. If there's any movie I'll recommend to anybody in this world, if you like complex stuff, which I think helps, please watch Inception. Watch Inception. 1 second though. There's one mad person in the comment section. Watch Inception. People can plant an idea into your mind so deep that you wake up thinking you have a bright idea, but was never yours. It was put there by some people. And that thing about cowardice was put there by Igbo people. And the funny thing is that in their own history, they actually have a history of cowardice. I'm not saying everybody there, but I'm saying the leaders, for the most part, in history. And when I say history, I'm not even saying history like that. It's not like 1,000 years history. The kind of history that we have is just about 60 years ago. There is no history of war, of empire building, of kingdom building, of anything inspiring, with all due respect. So yeah, please watch Inception by Christopher Nolan. Watch it, and then you see how a person can plant. I love that movie. But let me just say to you, if you watch that movie, it might take you 2 or 3 times of watching it. You may have to watch it again and again to really get it. But it's normal. It's a very complex movie, but it's a very fantastic work. I think. And then Tenet as well. Tenet is also good. That's the one featuring John David Washington, Denzel's son. Tenet is very good. But Inception, I like. I'm advertising movies, so once someone for me or somebody came in and said they pay me. They didn't pay me. Hollywood has to pay, Abby. And that movie you should watch if you like politics. 1 second, guys. And that movie you should watch if you like politics is Godfather. Godfather Part 1, 2, and 3. You should watch Godfather. Fantastic. And read it as well. Any book by Puzo, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Fantastic stuff. All right, let's move on. So it says on the day after when? Day after Oga became Oga. Day after Eronsi became head of state. Day after Eronsi was going to make him the governor of the Western region. Day after. Not 1,000 years later, not a week later, not a month later, the very day after he helped him secure power. On the day after, the general had assumed, let me take it again. On the day after the general had assumed full responsibility for the state, I was arrested by a few of my colleagues while waiting to see the general. I was never given a reason for my arrest or given any opportunity to defend myself against any charges that could be raised. I went to prison for 14 months under a false accusation, the details of which I only found out from the press and radio after I got to prison. I have since had the opportunity of speaking to the so-called actors in the drama of my arrest, and I now appreciate that the action was an act of hatred, motivated primarily by fear and suspicion. I spent a considerable part of my time in prison sending warnings to the late Major General and my colleagues about the policies that would appear to represent a continuation of the policies of the Balewa government, which could have the effect of encouraging counter-attempts, which might not only destroy the Nigerian army, would also, by the extent of bloodshed and the tribal selectiveness of the words indistinct, destroy the Nigerian nation as well. Maybe it's tribal selectiveness of the victims. There has to be victims, because now they selected the tribes of the victims. The day Igbos, with all due respect, the day they will begin to heal is the day is the day they learn to take responsibility. For the older generation, even those even in my age bracket, people in their 40s, 50s, I don't hold my breath for those ones. But I'm hoping that the teenagers, folks in their 20s, in their 30s, may wake up one day and discover the folly of the aversion for accountability. Let's continue. The inevitable has now happened. By the way, when he said he warned him. He told him that this thing you have done, who is to say something like this will not happen again? Busui, please, I need reference for that 20 pounds. In what context? 20 pounds. Look for The Nigerian Civil War by John de St. John. Look for Gowon, the biography of the soldier statesman by J. Isawa Eligu. And then look for an interview that was granted by Papa in 1983. He was in Abeokuta. Those three sources should be good enough. Let's continue. It says here, the inevitable has now happened. So he was talking about the fact that he warned him that what you've done, like anybody could just wake up to do the exact same thing to you, which was exactly what happened on 29th July 1966 when Iransi was unalived. The inevitable has now happened, which would seem to confirm that my fears were well founded. There is now an army at the disposal of the feudal North, an army that has lost all the traditional discipline and standards of a responsible army. There is now a government of the Federation that is sustained by violence. This person talking has not been to Nigeria in 14 months, has just been in Biafra land, but he's talking as though he knew what he was talking about. Which army was at the disposal of feudal North to destroy Nigeria? If this army was still under the control or was under the control of Murtala Mohammed, I would say most likely he's right. He will be right. But no, he's wrong. But guess what? That's what happens when you're idealistic and naive. Your blind side don't count because you think you see everything. May God help us. Let's continue. He says, the inevitable has now happened, which would seem to confirm that my fears were well founded. There is now an army at the disposal of the feudal North, an army that has lost all the traditional discipline and standards of a responsible army. There is now a government of the Federation that is sustained by violence and is therefore tied to the ambition of the Northern feudalists. There has been a considerable amount of bloodshed, chaos, and tribal bitterness among such people. Such tribal rivalry has used to be exploited by our previous political parties for the harnessing of the opinion of the North and its people, is now translating itself into a most extreme form of brutality and despicable savagery. Finally, the dismemberment of our nation has commenced with the breakaway of Biafra. In August 1966, I wrote to my colleagues from prison to inform them that I did not consider that we military leaders of this country had carried out such action as the proclamation of the dismemberment of or presiding over the dismemberment of Nigeria. I still do not think that we have the right to destroy a nation that was handed over to us to save at a moment of crisis. If you're on TikTok, please, power tap. Please. It says, where were we? I still do not think that we have the right to destroy a nation that was handed over to us to save at the moment of crisis. The 29th July 1966 federal military government came into being as a result of a mutiny in which the primary action was directed at the elimination of a particular ethnic group and the supremacy of another ethnic group in Nigeria. This is exactly what happened on 15 January 1966. Why do people talk about the northern issues, which is real, and for some reason, especially Southerners, for some weird warped reasoning or reasons, they do not talk about what the East did. What the North did was terrible, but it was a response to what the East did in January. This thing where, listen, the North has faults, so plenty. But you know, we focus on the North. They are the devils, they are parasites, they are this. Only for us to discover that the least productive region in Nigeria is the one that insults everybody the most. And the level of productivity and the fact that it's very low did not start in 2025. It started in the 1940s. Who would have known that the loudest the harshest, the one who insults everybody the most, actually produces the least. The North has its fault. But the thing about Yoruba, all these Yoruba kings, I think that are doing fairness, and most of, you see a lot of them, for instance, that they do videos on YouTube, documentaries. Yoruba people doing documentary, and you're looking at this person. 2 sentences, they'll blame the North. Another 4 sentences, they'll blame the North. Like, the North, when is their fault? I will say it. For instance, we said what Murtala Mohammed did. We talked about the ideals of Sardauna, of the northern hegemony, of the northern elites, and their plan to take over the country, and what they did in the western region, for instance, from 1962. We can talk about all of those things, but why do we act like? I mean, we've also talked about what happened in the West, what we did in '65. Well, not we, but we, because now Yoruba people do them in Yoruba land, by the way. The whole World Tier crisis, it happened because a particular part of us, decided to somehow take political power without ever being elected. Would I ever been elected? That is something that we need to. If you want to grow a nation, you want to build a nation, you cannot be shouting, Fulani is your problem, Fulani is your problem, and forget the fact that there's another person who may not be going on rampage like the Fulani, but who may be fighting PSYOP. You know what they call PSYOP? Psychological operations. Like they're telling you women are dirty. They are telling you are cowards. They are telling you they bought your land. Meanwhile, this person who is talking, he doesn't have a house, so he lives under the bridge. But he's bold, and you don't know better. They are saying these things. Oh, your soup is bad. Oh, we got your soup. Oh, we own your land. Even if the original place of Yoruba people, we owned it. These things, let me tell you something. It's actually worse than the person carrying gun. The person carrying gun now, they shoot the gun, they discharge, you deal with it, that's over. The person who speaks like this, they are affecting generations. But you do like, since they're not the problem, let me align with them. I remember years ago, some Yoruba people said they want to align with this. I was just like, he said they are doing Southern Alliance. Did you not learn anything from history? Have you ever had any situation where you actually had a Southern Alliance? Whenever it was proposed, who proposed it? And who always destroyed it? Have you forgotten your history? And guess what? The funny thing about Nigeria is that Nigeria's history is like tomorrow's newspaper. If you study it well enough, you can almost tell what's going to happen to, like, you will be able to predict better. I'm not saying you'll be perfect, of course. It doesn't make you Nostradamus or prophet, but it helps you understand what is happening right now. You see obedient movement, you don't even have to waste your time to understand obedient movement. Just understand Zikism, you get obedient movement. Everything they are doing is a replica. Every single thing. The only difference is the tool they are using and the time that we are in. Every single thing they do, the violence, physical violence join. The counseling. Zikist movement did the same thing. The idea of telling some people that they are tribalists, even though they are all from the same ethnic group, they did it. The idea of having Yoruba people join them to insult Yoruba people, it's there. Whatever you are seeing right now, these ones, they have parents, and their parents lived in the 40s, or maybe their ancestors lived in the 40s, and they are just like these ones. And they never end well. Because if you want to become a persona non grata in Yoruba land, just keep doing what you are doing in obedient movement. As a Yoruba person, keep doing it. What will make a person who has brains in 21st century to say that Afenifere belongs to all Nigerians? You already know that there's a problem. Every single thing. When you begin to notice that You go to certain spaces and everybody that's representing the party, thank you for writing that, Rewaju, everything representing the party, NCNC, are Igbo in a particular area. What you see in Lagos, you just see Igbo in LP, take over the place. The idea is not to build something. The idea is, if you have built something, I have a right to get in there and take over what you have built. And you can't say anything because are we not one Nigeria? Because for you to say anything about that, that means that you don't believe in one Nigeria. To believe in one Nigeria is to sacrifice yourself and let your land go. Because that's where you can prove to me that you really like me as a Nigerian. May that day never happen again. And for those who are still doing it, I'll tell you something. I love you. I don't hate you. Especially the Yoruba ones among the Yoruba, especially the younger ones, because there's hope for you. Love everybody. Respect everybody, right? But when it comes to preservation of self, when it comes to preservation of what's yours in your own land, defend it without apology. Like, defend it without apologies. Don't apologize to anybody. And I'm not saying go to the extreme of what you be. That's why I said love people, respect everybody, love everyone, wish them well, but protect what's yours. You know why? You know how you will do this. Let me tell you how you will do it. Remember your friends when you were in school. You can share with them, but there are certain things that you owe to be there to yourself. For instance, no matter how generous you are, there are some things that are just yours. It doesn't. So if, for instance, somebody comes to you and says that thing that is yours, for instance, maybe they say that your ogun beer, that thing, you must drop it, give it to me to prove that you are my friend. You know the person doesn't want to prove that you know that person is your enemy. Anayo, you say it's hard to understand what I'm trying to agree. You can't understand. Let me not lie to you. It's meant for smart people. You are not smart. Your job is to come day in, day out. After a while, your brain will be reset, and then you'll be able to get maybe a bit of it. But right now, I can assure you, you are not my target audience. You don't have the brains to understand it. Don't bother. And I say this as a very, like, with all due respect and love. I love you. It's like expecting a 2-year-old to understand calculus. You can't get it. 1 second, guys. I want to put on the mic for guys on Twitter. Twitter people, sorry, our mic went off. I didn't notice it enough. Tom say as a pastor. No, I mean as a pastor, I say God bless him. I love him with the love of the Lord. But it cannot it would be unfair for me to expect him to understand what I'm saying. Even God will be like, why would you do that? So I already know that you can't get it. I've said it several times. Where some people were 1,000 years ago, you guys are just trying to get into that space. So with all due respect, take several seats. E-Teamy, my Twitter handle is Busui Oris Works. So please, yeah, join it. Sandra Hon, she could see Camilla to chance say ha on YouTube. She'll see. General Lowo, no more. Go to the naughty corner. Where were we? Let's continue with the letter by Victor Banjo. I must finish what I was saying. I just remembered, if you're young, love everybody, respect everyone, treat people right, but be assertive about what's yours. That doesn't make you a hater. It doesn't make you a bigot. It makes you a wise person. Land is in short supply, and God is not creating any new ones. the ones your parents gave you or your grandparents, that one is not, you cannot get more. The only thing you can get is maybe reclaim land, but even that one they are reclaiming is still in a particular place. You cannot come and reclaim island in Lagos and call it Igbo land. So the primary reason for wars in human history, the primary, not the only, but the primary reason for wars is land. And when we say land, we're not talking about I bought the land. If you have to tell a person that you bought his land, it means you are not indigenous to that space. You see, I'm Yoruba. This may sound weird to people from other places, but you see, in Yoruba land, the way you know, one of the things that will make you an indigent, to be honest, in ancient times, purchase of land is not even one of those things. For the most part, the land you got was allocated to you. If you had to buy the land, it's actually proof positive that you're a stranger in that land. When we say land, we're not talking about a parcel. We're not talking about a plot or a quarter plot that some people buy, they won't let you rest. The land is about everything about that space. The culture of the people, their traditions, their worldview, the way they reason, their value system. The Yoruba value system is totally different from the Igbo value system. It's not that it's better or it's worse. It's just different. And this conversation is not about, I'm better than you, you are this, that's just childish. It's understanding the differences. Dr. Azikiwe said something to the Sardauna. He said, let us forget our differences. The Sardauna responded, which is, I believe, is one of the most important, most beautiful statements ever in Nigeria's history. He says, let us understand our differences. Don't forget it. Let us understand our differences. You're an Igbo man, you're an Easterner and a Christian. I'm a Muslim Northerner. Let's understand it, and then we can build a nation. Don't forget any difference. I said it in a video I did, I think it was last week. I said, anyone who tells you to forget your differences or forget where you're coming from is because the person has nothing to remember where he's coming from. There's nothing worth remembering in his history. As a Yoruba person, it would be a suicide for me to forget my history. I have centuries, millennia full of resources to bet, not to brag, to say I'm better than you. No, I have millennia full of resources to take from to benefit this generation and the next one. I can't forget it. Your lack of it should not determine what I do with mine. You don't have it, that's good. You can start your own wherever you're starting from. Whenever you wake up is your morning. But for me, we woke up a long time ago. And the job I have is an assignment for my ancestors. So I have to do my bit, keep doing it, and then pass it on. And we're not stopping anytime soon. And that's why when you read, for instance, when you read Awolowo's works, you see how he referred to those who came before him. It's a mantle. It's a baton. We keep taking it and running with it. We don't drop it and say, oh, let's create a new Nigeria. No. Whatever Nigeria we're going to create will not, cannot, must not touch where I'm coming from. Just like, imagine going to a Scotsman in the UK and say, let us create a new Britain. Destroy everything Scottish, no Gaelic, nothing. Go to the Welsh, tell them the same thing. If you're able to walk out of that place, it's because, it's not even because of your mother gave birth to you somehow. It's because of God. Maybe God just wants to have mercy on your life. Because we think this is about tribalism and about Nigeria. We don't understand the broader concept. I've done a session here on constitution in Europe. We're going to do it again sometime, maybe sometime soon. And you see how ethnicity played a role in almost every country in Europe when they were creating their nations, all the way back to Westphalia Treaty. We've got to wake up. So, love to everybody. I love everybody. So, love everybody with all due respect to everyone. God bless you. God increase you. You are blessed. But in my land, this is how I do it. I don't care that we are all Nigeria. I don't bloody care. What I owe you in Yoruba land is respect, I owe you fairness. As far as you succeeding, I want you to succeed. Because see, your success in Yoruba land is proof that this land is blessed. It's not because of you. Listen, let me tell you something, guys. When people talk about being blessed, let me say this. God blesses people, though. But there's something called positioning. Environment matters. You cannot plant cocoa in the north. It's not suited for that particular crop. You can plant cocoa in Imo. It's not going to work. That's why even Michael Okpara went to plant it in Ogoja. He didn't bother planting it in Mbise. It's not because of the environment. See, this environment is blessed. Yoruba land is blessed. If you come to Yoruba land and you succeed, you just prove that point. So I don't want you to fail. I want you to do well. I want you to prosper. I want you to take care of your family. I want you to do all those things. But you are never going to be able to make a decision about politics in my land. If you think that's too harsh, get your bag today and go back home. And once you study what happens in Europe, you get this. This is how nations work. Say, but we're one Nigeria. You don't understand that Nigeria is not a flat space. Nigeria is not a melting pot. It's a salad bowl. Every part can pick their own space and how they want to run it. And that is why all this nonsense that you hear about Yoruba land, nobody born of a woman will say that in Sokoto. Nobody will say that thing in Kano. Are you not one Nigeria with Kano? Why not go to Kano and say it? Try. I'm waiting for the first brave man. Go to the front of the palace of the emir and tell them how you are one Nigeria and that you own their territory. If you leave that place with your head on your neck, let me tell you something, you will not. You will not. Yoruba land is not the place to come and experiment with the tribalization. I've said it before I go back to this book. I'll say it again. If you really are about opening up Yoruba land, please, that region where you are from, today, start a movement. Campaign for Fulani to become your governor. Campaign for Idoma, Angas, TV, Bachama, anyone else from your side to become deputy governor. If you do that and you succeed in all your states in your region, we'll come and learn from you. Until then, succeed, prosper. We love you. We want you to be here. Enjoy life. But you see, when you hear the word po, before you hear that is politics or potluck, just lock up. Back to this book. It says the 29th July 1966 Federal Military. By the way, I'm reading Victor Banjo's speech in Benin. This was in August of 66. It says the 29th July 1966 Federal Military Government came into being as a result of a mutiny in which the primary action was directed at the elimination of a particular ethnic group and the supremacy of another ethnic group. Just like the one that happened in January of 66, it was also done to eliminate people of some other ethnic groups and elevate another ethnic group. So this idea of supremacy is not just the North that does it. One day I'm going to have a full session on the letter, on the documents written by Igbo State Union in the 1940s. One day, I'll do a session on it. That day, the reason I didn't go deep into it the last time is because, and maybe I would not even do it safe. I'll just be talking, because if you hear it, you may want to hate certain people, and it's not their fault. That's the reason, when people insult me, I just laugh, because the information I can use against you, and that people can use against you, the reason I don't do that is because it's not even your fault. You are not the one who caused it. Others caused it, but we're trying to favor you. But if I talk about some things, people use it against even you will think it's about you. So this is your insult. Please keep it coming. Maybe it will make me say something one day, but to be honest, if I say it, it's because I want to say it. You can't make me say what I don't want to say. I take responsibility for every single thing I say. But you see all these children of perdition that come around insulting. When I'm ready to say any other thing, it just makes you sadder. But is there anyone like sadder or more sad? To make you like that. And then you understand the fact that I want to need to your forebears they've done terrible things, said terrible things. And whilst I don't think you should be the one to bear the brunt of it or pay for their mistakes, I think the fact that you will not even acknowledge the mistake is a problem. To make it worse, you are also repeating their mistakes. That's the problem. So on one hand, some people are making you pay for what they did, and I say, it's not their fault now. But then I look at you. You are saying they never did anything wrong, one. Number two, you are also repeating the same mistakes. So moderate people like me even find it hard. You know, yesterday, I read a message from a friend of mine. We served together many years ago. Lovely, lovely lady. She's Igbo. I have Igbo people. She was surprised. Said something on Facebook. I was like, I saw. It's not like we don't know what to say. The leaders are terrible people. I mean, where at least? Let me stay with the where. Terrible stuff. If you see manifesto, if you see, how can you sit down and have a plan for every group in Nigeria to dominate them, and you have the mind to write it down? If you are young, it's not your fault, but don't gaslight any. If you're going, don't even come here to gaslight me or any. Don't gaslight anybody. Just say, okay, one mess up, and don't repeat the mistake like you are doing now. Taunting people, insulting people, rewriting people's history, talking about holding their land, publishing books, and you didn't find anywhere to do this nonsense you are doing. You went to Lagos, you went to Ejigbo, you went to Igbora, you went to Jebigbo to now make your life miserable. You went to Ife. You will be miserable. Don't say, why are you talking about anyone? You have not heard anything. By the time, I'm not going to go into your history until need be. By the time because I have to tell you, need to know your history. Whatever demon entered into you to tell me that you own Ife and own Lagos and you control this, and you before Odua, your Igbo prince and all those nonsense that Owane Zendigbo was publishing, whatever demon entered you to say that thing will also help me to teach you your history. And let me tell you something, I will not lie. I will not lie. I will not disdain. I will not try to put you down. I will just tell you as it is. Some people's history are insults. Now, why I know they like to come? Maybe you don't know your history. To make matters worse, it's written. They say if you want to hide something from some people, you should put it in a book. Thank God we are changing that narrative. It's written. We'll bring it out. You will see it. You'll be like, okay, so this is the history. Once you know the history, there's no fight. You'll be like, okay, so this is where I'm starting from, and then I can grow. But that demon that entered in some of you to be changing Yoruba history, that demon, you yourself, you will cast it out by the time you get into some things, and then you discover that we are all brothers in Christ. All right, back to this book. It says the July 66 coup or government has had the effect of destroying the basic mutual trust and confidence among the people of Nigeria and has created the decentralization of the Nigerian people into tribal groups. This action, more than any other event that has occurred throughout the history of Nigeria, has had the greatest on the dismemberment of Nigeria. The federal military government cannot claim to represent the government of the people of Nigeria and to fight for the unity of Nigeria while constantly rejecting fundamental human rights for all the people forming part of Nigeria. The federal military government cannot claim to be seeking a peaceful solution to the problems of achieving national Nigerian unity, while at the same time contemptuously ignoring the wishes of the people of the Midwest and the West. We are going to the Midwest very soon. Once I'm done with this thing, we're going to the Midwest. Do not let anyone tell your story or history, especially little boys of nowadays. Chiloski, for real, are you talking to me or talking to... I want to know where you are before I send you home, because the next I'm going to say right now is going to your dad. So are you referring to me as the little boy? Just be bold. Be bold though, and quickly. But if you're one of us, and I understand what you have mean. Meanwhile, guys, if you are typing in the comment section, always remember something. Meanings get lost in translation when you are typing. So remember, so I write, so I will know exactly who you are talking to, because the thunder that is going to strike some people, they have to stay in one place so I can strike them very well. If you're on TikTok, please power tap. We have an issue right now, and please give us a few seconds. We're going to sort this out. So on TikTok, there's an activity. Please power tap. Thank you very much. Our folks on Twitter, I hope I have not lost you. Thank you very much. Okay, we still have people on Twitter. Thank God. Thank you, guys. He's talking to me. The thing about, if he's talking to me as a boy, his dad is a baby. But beyond that, the truth of the matter is that if I say I'm going to tell you your history, one of the things you have to know, I mean, I think by now people would know this, is that I'm not going to make anything up. I'll just tell you what your elders said before you and your parents were born. I'm not going to tell you anything new. I'm not making anything up. I'm not telling you your history like I'm making it up. I'm going to tell you what your elders, your ancestors said before your grandparents were born. Then you can make up your mind whether you want to fix your present, or you want to go back in your past to go and be fighting your ancestors. Again, that day is close, but not today. Let's continue. So he says, excuse me, the federal military government cannot claim to be seeking a peaceful solution to the problems for achieving Nigerian unity, while at the same time contemptuously ignoring the wishes of the people of the Midwest and the West in their previous demand for the removal of the unruly troops of the North from their territories to allow the unfettered decision of the present political crisis. The federal military government cannot claim to be genuinely interested in the progress and welfare of the Nigerian people, while at the same time inflicting the bloodiest warfare on the people of Nigeria and employing unscrupulous foreign mercenaries in a total war that really destroys hundreds of our people and the economy of our nation. It's funny that while he's saying all of these things, not once has he mentioned the fact that a person did something totally unacceptable, even in the military, by declaring a separate nation. They asked you not to fight. They begged you not to fight. Kings traveled. I like to say that thing because it's a flex for Yoruba people forever. 6 Yoruba kings went to Enugu to talk to Ojukwu. They went to the north as well. 6 first-class kings. The Ooni of Ife, Aláàfin of Ọ̀yọ́, Awujale of Ijebu, Alake of Egba, Oba of Lagos, Olowo of Owo. 6 of them went to meet this young man in his 30s. Awo went there. Awo in all his glory went there. And even then, he went to war. Listen, and this is why I say young people who are looking for war and always shouting about, we want a military, we want war, we will fight. You're only saying this because ordinary riot you have not seen in your life. Ordinary riot you have not seen. So calm down. If they are saying don't fight and you get in there and you start the wala and you're not getting the repercussion, you can't then turn around and say they hate me. They don't hate you. Mywa, I'm going to send you the... what book is that though? I'm going to have to break to find it for you. This is one of those days when I have to check. Let me see. Guys, give me a second. Let me see if I can find it. If not, I'll let you know. I'll send it to you later. Oh boy. Wait, what book is this? Umbo. Give me a second, guys. Good afternoon, Yemisi. Good to see you. Happy New Month. Hope you're good. I'll find it. But the other one about Papa going there, you'll find that in our the Nigerian Civil War. So that one you see the people that went with Papa. Marere was there, Aluko was there, Adetokunbo Ademola was there, and they traveled with Papa to Enugu to talk to the man who told Papa in the middle of the night that regardless of what Papa said, they will fight. All right, we're going to come back to that, okay? I'm going to come back to that later. All right, so everybody went. So this guy is saying, oh, they are bringing foreign mercenaries. Now you want war now. Let's continue. The people of Biafra have a right to fight a government that has constantly treated its people to the most savage forms of brutality and persists in denying these people their fundamental human rights while something word indistinct representing other interests. It is my view that the people of Biafra were prepared to remain part of the nation into which they have so far... Sorry, let me read that again. It is my view that the people of Biafra were prepared to remain part of the nation into which they have for so many years invested their resources of manpower and material, and with which they have close social ties. Is that true? Yes. Interestingly, the people of Biafra wanted to remain in Nigeria. The person who didn't want to remain in Nigeria was Ojukwu. Let's continue. It is a remnant of the... Sorry, let me take that again. The other part. Provided that the people of Biafra could live within such a nation under a government that truly represents all sections of its people and truly tries to pursue such measures as are designed to promote the welfare of all Nigerians, irrespective of tribe or religion. It is a remnant of the old Nigerian army that broke away in July that now threatens the Nigerian nation. Again, Victor Banjo is on the Biafran side, so... This Northern Army is now under the power and control of a group of Northern feudalists who have as their aim the total conquest of Nigeria. The federal military government, having been brought to power and controlled by that army, is playing to that end. Hence, policies are inevitably directed towards achieving the objectives of the Northern feudalists who control the army. Biafra has words indistinct against the ambition of the Northern feudalists. Oh boy, this is still long ago. Should we continue? This one is long, but you know what? It helps, right? Let's keep reading. So it says here, Biafra has words indistinct, we don't know what's there, against the ambition of the Northern feudalists who expected to inflict the dictatorship on the rest of Nigeria. While Biafra's resistance succeeded, the rest of Nigeria... Okay, so it gets interesting from here, by the way. While Biafra's resistance succeeded, the rest of Nigeria enjoyed some form of participation in the federal government. If Biafrans were to be subdued, the ambition of the Northern feudalists would have been achieved, and the people of Nigeria would be brought too late into their realization that they have been living under the shadow of a dictatorship that will give you decree number 8. That's not a dictatorship, oh. But let's continue. Boy. If Biafrans were to be subdued, the ambition of the Northern feudalists would have been achieved, and the people of Nigeria will be brought too late into their realization they have been living under the shadow of a dictatorship that is being imposed by the least enlightened of its people. You see that? We do that a lot in Nigeria, don't we? That was a jab, by the way. The least enlightened of his people. Who is talking to? Northerners. I feel sorry for Southerners who call Northerners. I daily enlightened. Of course, they don't go to school that much. But guess what? Read the book by Ahmadu Bello. The book is called My Life. They know that's how we see them, so they use it to their advantage. And that's why they usually win. If you like, just be insulting them and saying they don't know anything. Very soon discover that Oyinbo doesn't mean you have sense. Anyway, ironically, the other sections of Nigeria are assisting the northern feudalists to crush Biafra and to impose on themselves a dictatorship that will be devoid of the rule of law and normal human standard conduct. It is even more astonishing that the great democracies of the world, whose people have over the years fought for freedom and representative government, should actively be supporting the imposition of feudal dictators on the rest of Nigeria. Fellow Nigerian citizens, I am a Nigerian. I believe, who is speaking here? By the way, we're reading. Sorry. What's the little YouTube? Rishi. Where were we? So we're reading from Victor Banjo's speech that he gave on the 14th of August 1967 in Benin. Where was I? All right. So it says, ironically, the other... No. Victor Banjo says, fellow Nigerian citizens, I am a Nigerian. I believe in a Nigerian nation, and I am fighting for a Nigeria in which no group will be dominated by the other, in which the rule of law shall be entrenched, in which the various peoples of Nigeria can live together in mutual trust under a government that truly represents and truly strives for the progress of all its people. I have fought for Biafra in the struggle of its people to sustain their rights to live a life of peace in their own way and at their own pace. So, again, I think this is actually important. We're going to take everything. So, I want you to take cognizance of what he's saying here. He doesn't really believe in secession. Every book we have read has told us the same thing. He never really believed in it. And he's saying here, I am a Nigerian, I believe in Nigerian. Ojukwu is not a Nigerian, he doesn't believe in Nigerian, but you're working with him now to get Nigerian that you want, but you're going to use Ojukwu's army to get what you really want because you are smarter than Ojukwu, who actually had a plan that you did not even know as at this date. The letter Ojukwu wrote to him did not come until 8 days after this broadcast. Ojukwu had a totally different plan, but God thought he was smart and that he was working with a normal person who just would, you know, when we can say agreement is agreement, agreement is an agreement. Ojukwu didn't bloody care about any agreement. By the way, just in case you don't know how this story ends, it ends with Ojukwu killing Victor Banjo. Just in case you don't know, so that's spoiler alert. Ojukwu killed him. We'll get to that later. Ojukwu killed him and made a movie, a stage production of that killing. Ojukwu killed him and made a stage production of the killing. Let that sink in for a second. The tribalized, idealistic, revolutionary, one Nigeria. Let's continue. When I offered my services to my friend and colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwemeka, When I offered my services to my friend and colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwemeka Odumego Ojukwu, in that struggle, I requested, please guys, listen, I requested that when I joined my efforts with his to contain the northern troops, and this being achieved, he on his part would assist me too. He on his part would assist me too by providing me with the forces that would need to save Nigeria. Ojukwu doesn't want Nigeria. Ojukwu is breaking up Nigeria. You are helping him to break it up. But you are banking on the fact that he will give you an army that you will now use to save Nigeria. How obedient. If you're obedient, I'm giving you a mirror. You see, sometimes you don't know how ridiculous you sound until someone just says, come, let me show you your somebody. He's not a bad person. He just, like somebody was playing draft while Ojukwu was playing chess. I've read the letter that Ojukwu wrote to him. Maybe we'll read it later. You can understand his plight. Please, Famous, feel free to tell us what the plight is in the comment section. You know, in his mind, he just felt like he's my person, he's my friend, he's my... These guys go way back. I mentioned how, if you read David Ejo, by the way, who was the third person in the room with Ironsi on 15 January 1966, and he wrote a book. If you read his own book, and he was made a governor by Ironsi, by the way, the first military governor of the Midwest. If you read his own book, you will understand this thing a bit better. One of the things he said in his book, right, was that when Ojukwu organized his own coup in 1964, he reached out to 4 people. There was Bassi, there was himself, David Ejo, Yakubu Gowon, and Victor Banjo. And he said, Ejo said the same, what's it called? Rank. But he joined as a warrant officer and he rose through the ranks. Ojukwu joined as a short commission. It was an NCO. But the point is that they go way back. So in his mind, why wouldn't I be able to trust my friend? If I fight for you and I'm going to fight, let me read it again. Just to, you know, sometimes when you read some things out loud, it just makes you see how ridiculous they sound. Victor Banjo says, when I offered my services to my friend and colleague, Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, in that struggle, I requested that when I joined my efforts with his to contain the northern troops, and these would assist me. Okay, I think we're good. I hope so.